Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of League of Inches podcast, part 2 for our 2025 season review here at the wonderful Caxton Street Brewing Company, of course, our sponsor. Firstly, thank you very much to everyone who's watched part 1 so far. If you haven't yet, definitely advise it. We previewed in depth the bottom 9 sides, thanks to our mate Link at the United. This week, though, another special guest. We have Retro joining us live. Mate, how's things?
Yeah, good. End of season, but it's about to be one of my busiest times of the year because every club is about to drop 1 billion jerseys and training ranges and merch ranges and member packs, and it's very exciting.
I love this time of year. It's so fun. All the player movement and everything, all the new jerseys. Very, very fun time. Trav joins us once again. How's things, mate?
It's always well, mate, when I'm talking footy. Yeah, and being here, I love it. It's a bit of a hike to get in, but Jesus, makes it so much better when we're in here and we can do it.
Once you get here, it's the vibe. It's a completely different vibe. And thank you behind the scenes to Rob, produced part 1 for us. And right now he's producing this one again and did a fantastic job.
We have to get a photo of his ugly shirt.
I don't think it's ugly.
I like it. I rate the look.
More of it.
And his hair's really like surfy look at the moment as well. So listening, if you are listening, let us maybe put a cartoon drawing in, send it to us what you think Rob looks like, and I'll let you know if you are very close or
Give
not
him
to that.
a quick description.
No, I want people to go off the name, Rob.
Yeah, let's go, Rob. Beard. We won't say how long or short. Glasses. What do you say? Surfy hair.
Surfy hair.
We won't go the colour. Wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Short shorts. Shaved legs.
No,
Long
he's
socks.
hairy legs. He's got some hairy arms and legs. He's one of those guys with the hairiness on him. So
No, I put that on purpose. I thought that they might make it muscles or something like that and add to that. Just
okay.
you know.
We'll find. Like we mentioned last week, plenty more happening at this venue, which we're very excited for in the future. Just to pre-warn you, Pub Talk isn't that long away. We've been talking about it, I feel like, now for half a year. We're locked in dates and everything, so it's only a couple of weeks away. Then you'll be seeing and watching all of that. So very, very keen to rip and tear into all things rugby league with a lot of our fellow content creators as well. But without further,
one of them.
Retro is running. He's coming back, so we'll be sitting around early morning, but probably having a few early ones and just getting right into everything, discussing what is basically the big topics in the game. But let's get straight into our first team. So we're doing the top 8 all the way up to the premiers. So the Sydney Roosters first off the list. So they finished 8th. Points for was 653, which was a season ranking of 5th, average of 27 points per game. Their points against was 521, season ranking of 8th, average was 21 points a game. Top try scorer, Mark Nwanga Nitawasi, 24. The biggest win was round 23 against the Dolphins, 64 points to 12 at Suncorp Stadium. And then their biggest loss was round 1. It didn't start very well for the Roosters, unfortunately. Against the Broncos, 50 points to 14 at Allianz Stadium. Luckily, we've got a Roosters fan with us, which is quite funny because last week we actually started with the Knights, who we had the guest for as well. So funny little transition there. But Retro, talk to us. As a fan, talk to us about your season.
Well, I thought Roosters were actually going to have a bit of a shocker this year. Like everyone else is saying, they're going to make the 8. They've got a good enough squad. And I thought, I reckon we'll be lucky to not finish like 14th or below. So to get above that was a success. And I suppose we'll come back to why that was in a little bit. But just as a fan, I think like they were one of the most exciting teams in the comp to watch. They're a fun team to watch. Like just electric. Marky Mark's just so fun to watch. And Teddy doing his thing out the back and Toya on one edge and all that kind of stuff. They're just a fun team to get behind. Didn't push into finals, and they have that kind of classic thing about them where they just have a game they'll just totally go bad on. And that seemed to be that game against the Sharks. But to be fair, Sharks were better on the day. I think Roosters have some great upsides coming. But
I think it was a good year in the end. When we talk about, and it's funny, we are doing a 2025 review, but a lot has to go into the recruitment and retention for the year before coming into this year, because the players that you lost, Suoli'i, Jared Ria-Hargraves, Joey Manu, Luke Keary, Supanoa, and then the late one, which has still got so many people confused, Terrell May. Like when you talk about those sorts of players being lost to the club and then to still make the 8. You're absolutely right. And where you spoke about it, I think I mentioned that I thought they wouldn't make the 8 this year. I was very shocked
Do you
that
know
they
exactly
did.
where you had them?
Where did I have them going? You love
Yeah.
to just make me look like a
No, because actually you were better than me.
Okay.
So make the most of this moment because it doesn't happen often. Roosters, you had them in 9th. I had them in 10th.
I'll take that. Respectable, actually, from me. I'll take one off.
So I had them the lowest out of all of us then. There you go.
There you go.
As
Yeah,
the
no
Roosters.
faith.
Yeah. No. I thought all those losses were going to be too much, particularly Big Jared and Luke Keary. I thought they were going to be the big
Massive
big losses. But I mean, we can jump to it now. I think this was the year of youth for the Roosters. Like, I thought it was one of Robbo's best coaching years. And I recall an interview with Victor Radley, and he just said basically us as the young, and he included himself as the young group, just said, this is on us. We've got to do it. And they really actually took that youthfulness and that responsibility and ran with it. Hugo Savala stepping in the space, Rob Toya, Nafahu White having a great year. All these young guys, that the name escapes me, but remember the guy who was concreting the day before and then he came and played that game against the Broncos.
And it was very good.
Deep, wasn't it?
No, but he was another good one too. For Keddy, like there's a bunch of just great kids who came in and just had a real dig.
So I like that point, and I wrote it in my own notes around unearthing studs, and I was very particular with the word studs because I just think these kids are going to be guns.
Yeah.
Like I think Noffa White is a dude that, like, I would hate to have thought if you had kept Terrell May what he would have been able to do this year. The fact is, losing Terrell May was such a good thing for the Roosters because it allowed them to be able to play all of these guns. So we've got like Sua Wong. Steep was another one that I just mentioned before. I really like, this is not a Terrell May thing, but I really like Luelu.
Hooker.
Yeah, yep. The hooker who's ended up starting and pushed Watson to the bench. And then obviously Watson played more minutes, but you've got a young guy, and that's what they wanted. I reckon he plays more minutes next year. He was really good. Actually, I liked what I saw from him on the weekend too in the international series.
I don't know if he will play more minutes next year because, of course, you've got Reece Robson coming. That may complicate things. But don't forget, that's how Victor Radley started his career, coming in at fill-in hooker. So that is a seemingly segue path that the Roosters use.
And then the one dude that I really want to make sure that we mention is Toya. Like, he came out of nowhere. Like, we all knew he was going to start at center, but did we think that he was going to be that good? Like, I guarantee there was no Roosters fan that I've spoken to who thought he was going to be that good, nor do we think he was going to play Origin and then do so well in Origin and play the way he did.
Didn't he?
What's that?
He's had a pretty injury-riddled start to his career, hasn't he? He should have debuted a few years ago.
I don't recall, sorry, but he does have a brother as well, so maybe that was that. But I do know, remember Dom Young coming to the Roosters was this great coup. Well, between Rob Toya and my other man, Billy Smith.
Billy Smith is next on
Who's
the
Dom
list.
Young?
Yeah.
Who's Suoliti? They just came in, they owned I love Billy Smith. They came in, they owned their spots, and they got the job done. Tupou, it's just old legs, just young heart. Like, he just goes forever, right? So, and Mark, the excitement machine out wide. Still big question marks. What's going on with DCE? Apparently, we'll find that out November 1.
There's.
I think.
But yes.
I think the other one to mention is you said losses. We have to put Sam Walker as a loss he only played 8 games. So the fact is that they had to navigate him only playing a third of the year. Literally a third of the year.
Well, and to add to that,
what they ended
Brandon
up doing.
Smith, I know that didn't work the way that they wanted, but he was supposed to be in those calculations, right? So that's why they bought him. So, but I just thought it's increasingly becoming a young man's game, but I like that these young kids came in and played tough first. Yeah, flashy, whatever, but they played tough, and that was great to see.
I want to go a bit more onto that Sam Walker point because he only played 8 regular season games and he played that game in the finals as well. But if we spoke before this season, we spoke about Sam Walker not playing that many games. Like we knew he was going to be out for most of the year already. And that's why so many wrote the Roosters off originally. But there's 2 parts. There's credit to the people that have filled in for them, so Sanders Smith and Savala, who were both really, really good throughout the season. And
Chad Townsend, don't forget Chad.
And shout out to you, Chad Townsend.
The King Chad.
King Chad. But it's sort of all 3 going together where once it allowed, I think, the form of both Sandon Smith and Hugo Savala actually allowed Sam Walker to come back sort of
cherry ripe
with ease type thing. Like, he did have that second bout of injury as well for a couple of weeks, but he wasn't expected to just come straight in and just save the season because the other two boys actually got in there, got respect almost straight away from their playing group. They had some great leaders we've already spoke about in the forward pack who laid a platform for them to work off. And that really set up the Roosters to be able to go sort of midway through the year, all right, let's start balancing up what's happening here. We've got Sam Walker coming back. We've got a couple of games probably more ahead here than we originally thought. So we could actually plan a little bit better. And it allowed them, I know the finals run wasn't ideal, but I remember I said it a week or two before the final started that I had the Roosters as one of those real up there contender sort of teams. That's how they started to play. Whatever happened against the Sharks, and just was one of those games for them, unfortunately. But yeah, it was.
They started 5-7. 5 losses from 7 games. Sorry, I said that wrong. And we all wrote them off. We literally wrote them off and went, yep, this is pretty much where we went. And I remember saying on one of our live shows that I've got the Roosters in 10th. I had them as a sneaky chance to make the 8, but I didn't really hold on to any hope unless Walker came back. And I said, Walker, the only way that they'll make finals is if Walker turns up. And then we all thought, well, maybe they push it. It was an ACL. He did it in the second last game of the year, 12 months. Maybe because of their record, they don't push him. And then they started to turn it on around Origin and start to play. They won 8 out of their last 11. And it was no coincidence that most of that was around when Walker turned up.
And a few gutsy wins along the way. So they beat the Sharks in Gosford during that Origin period, where Cronulla had all their Origin stars and Sharks had none. And I was at this game when the Roosters upset the Broncos at Suncorp.
Yes.
And so that was, I think, Marty Savala's debut.
Yeah.
If not, it was the second.
That was awesome.
But he kicked him to death. Yeah, it was a great and it was interesting going into that game. My friend and I, who went to both Roosters fans, were like, oh, it's funny going to a game where you just know you're going to lose. And then we came out the other side winners. So, yeah, I think a pretty good year considering from the Chooks.
You mentioned him, and I think it's only fair to talk about him, the human highlights reel by the name of Mark Nwangani-Tawasi. Just love saying that name now that we've all basically learned how to actually say it.
Yeah.
In my eyes, I still feel it was a bit rough to not let him have Rookie of the Year. Because in my opinion,
one Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, in my opinion, he was an NRL rookie, so that's Rookie of the Year in my eyes. But just his year. Like, I know there's still a little bit of his game he needs to work on, defensive decisions, a little bit shy under the high ball at times throughout the year, but we can't sit here and deny how good he was attacking wise. We've seen players who have had 200+ game careers not have the highlight reel that this guy's been able to make now after one season, which is incredible.
Yeah, Mark's the prime example of you live with the good because you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You live with the bad because you know what good you're going to get. 24 tries, he led the competition. And some of those tries are, like, we're going to remember for decades, right? That'll be on highlight reels on YouTube that we'll be watching when we're all grannies and grandpas watching. Like, that was some of those tries were sick. Like the try of the year try that he did, that was just unreal. So the highlight reel is great. But yeah, like, deficiently, he's pretty poor on defense. But I think that picks up. Like, he's still young. He's still a young fella. That picks up. My biggest problem I've got with Mark is that I know that we're going to watch him again next year and then we lose him to Union. That's my issue I've got with him, is that I'm just shattered that we're going to lose that, because he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
And I think that's disappointing.
The interesting thing with him, like we talk about his attacking prowess and whatever, I can't recall the last time hearing commentators say about a winger, he needs to get himself injected into the game to get the Roosters out of trouble. That's what commentators were saying about Marky Mark.
Yeah.
Come off your wing and do something special. Maybe Joey Manu was maybe the last one in that squad. I mean, he's kind of centre, and I did play a bit of centre too. But, the last time we talked about wingers not just getting you out of trouble, but just injecting themselves in the game.
The only one
strong body too. He's got that surge in it. You think you stop him one-on-one, he's got that one extra leap.
See, I like the comment of Manu. Manu did it because as a centre, so he was even further in and then had a bit more license. So I love that. Coates is probably the only one that I've heard them say something like that, but it was a little bit different, right? Coates is such a bigger runner off, like, kick meters and getting that first and second tackle run, but then it's that highlight reel that people are calling, like, he's out on the wing, kick it to him, give it to him, it's Coates, you need to do it, like, that's how you do it. He's the only one in the last few years that I've heard as a true winger to that point, but nothing like what they did this year. Like, they were literally, like, Coates is not going, save the Roosters, you got to win them the game, like what they were talking about Marky Mark. It's such a good point.
James Tedesco, I'm struggling to just explain how good this bloke is.
He's the modern day NRL version of Benjamin Button.
he just is getting better and better and better. And I think it's fair to say now, if he wasn't playing and played as many games as he did this year, you probably don't make the 8. I think he was that crucial to what you guys were doing. I know we've shouted out, and rightly so, to so many players who have done such a good job this year. But when we go back and look into everything, and he obviously absolutely brained the Dally M's, and rightly so, but he was everywhere this year, absolutely everywhere.
And in the past, he's had a tendency to want to help too much, and the more he does, the more like the people around him can't get into the game.
Yeah,
he found a rhythm this year where he could do everything he could do. He's probably still lost that half a step of pace. I think like 2019 was his absolute zenith, but he can't stay young forever. You can stay ultra fit, which is what he does, and he's just everywhere he needs to be. Still super strong, still got that big backside, popping out of those shorts. Love Teddy. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
That was the right point that I actually made at the start of the year. I was worried because we've seen him in the past when he's half back or something is not there. He feels like he's the guy that needs to take over it. So again, and I've said it before, but a shout out and credit there to Sandon Smith and Sava for giving Tedesco, your captain, as much faith to say basically, I'll let you guys run the show. I'll let you do and let me play my game, which will, in the end, be the best thing for the Roosters.
Yeah, love that call. And we all did. We said that, hey, like we were very concerned and we started to write Teddy off. Like we knew that he was a gun and we knew what he did last year in 2024. We knew that he was still going to have something similar, but we truly thought that based off the fact that Walker was injured and we had Townsend and Smith to start the year, to be fair, and Teddy was going to be, he was a great super coach option. Literally, that's what we thought, but we didn't really want him to get the ball in NRL option because we knew he would overplay. Yeah. And that was the thing. I loved his year. Like that's one of the best years I've seen from Teddy. I really do. I just in the circumstances and the context of what actually happened and what he had to do, and the fact that they made 8 when everyone wrote them off and not making the 8 and win the Dally M by 20 points comfortably. Like that was one of the best years I've seen of Teddy.
I absolutely agree. Final player I want to talk about, and the impact sort of it happened. You alluded to it a bit earlier. Was just the Brandon Smith stuff. Obviously, I don't want to get into all the crap that happened, but how much do you reckon it actually hurt the Roosters? Because I know no fault of Connor Watson's, but I felt like he didn't have one of his better years this year, and it looks to me like a lot of that has to do with. They would have gone into this year with the plan of, and I know he was injured for a lot of it, but in the back half of the year, we've got a fully fit, basically, Brandon Smith coming in, doing what he can do, which would help a lot. What did you make of his how that all happened? Do you think it actually hurt the club too much?
Not particularly, because if you listen to the James Graham podcast that he's on, in about March, he was talking like he was basically out the door. So I think they were pretty well. And it was the Roosters who said to him, you won't be here. So he was looking to expedite that process. Plus then the further you got through the year, the more things changed around a little bit, where Nafahu White spent a bit more time at 13. Bradley got pushed to an edge a bit more. They're probably happy with how the hooker rotation's going. They'd already bought a hooker for next year. So they weren't really expecting him to come from the clouds. They had enough kind of second rollers and guys to do the job. It seemed to be that they had tried it, the experiment had been done and failed, and they'd moved on.
Yeah. Any other points you boys want to make before we get into our Player of the Year for the Roosters?
The thing you've got here, I thought this is like the year of Nafahu White. Yeah, Big Jared stepping out. Everyone thought Spencer Leniu would step in that space, and he did. He was good. But, Nafu, the big lion, I thought he was great.
See, I've got Spencer Leniu down as my biggest disappointment of the Roosters this year. So I think it's interesting how you say he was good, because I don't think he was. I think he had moments. That's Spencer.
Was that Nafahu White?
No, but I did say about I was expecting Spencer to be the next Jared.
Yeah. And he was, and then you said he was, and he was good. But I think he was quite disappointing. I mentioned just before about Nafahu White. I think he's a freak. I would love him on my team. Gosh. He just works, and I think he'll build into being a proper 80-minute, like a large minute.
He's your budget Hayne Haas, like Terrell May budget Hayne Haas.
Yeah, well, he's like he's a poor man Payne Haas at the moment.
Well, but I would contend on that a little bit, and I mean we can talk more about this with the Broncos. Payne Haas, all-day motor. Can't think of the last time Payne Haas ran out of the line and shot someone.
Yeah.
And I can't also think of the last time where someone put a shot on him. But Nafu, I can think of times where he did shoot.
Oh, hell yeah.
So he's got more like bang about him. But He's not going to redline for 80 minutes like Payne Haas can.
No.
Anyway, we'll save that chat for more Broncos stuff.
No.
I agree. I think, absolutely shout out to Nafahu. The way I look at it as well, losing 3 key sort of middle players that you had was Ree Hargraves, Tuminua spent a bit of time middle and edge throughout his Roosters career, and then Terrell May being last minute, which again had everyone up in arms going, what was going on here? But the way he stepped up and his year was just, I actually think he ended the year is probably in the top 5 prop forwards in the competition.
Yeah, hell yeah, what a good
It's
call.
a huge call for him because this time last year, everyone's thinking, he'll do a good job next year. I'll probably off the bench. He'll get his 20-25 minute stint.
Well, someone put a little poster together. It was like a GTA style poster of like all the Kiwi forwards, and it had like Fish and Moses Leota and Joe Tarpanay, and Nafahu White was in that mix. He's not out of place.
Nah,
with those big boys. This
year especially, he needed to be there. Player of the year, Trav. Start us off with your player of the year and then your season rating.
Go into that as well. Not unfortunately, this is a no-brainer. This was the easiest one to pick. I went with Teddy. I mean, how do you not pick your best player of the year, who also won every competition award as well? So I've got Teddy. I might save my team rating for in a second. Maybe just go player of the year because I think we're all going to be the same.
Okay.
Talk to us.
All right. Well,
Retro.
I base my player on the year for the Roosters anyway. There's a little bit of bias sentiment in there. And I had honourable mentions of Rob Toyth had a great year. And I love Billy Smith. He's one of my personal favourites. Just such a toiler. Does his work out on an edge. Always getting injured, but he comes back and he demands his spot.
Just give us a whole year fit, please, Rugby League.
Yes, please. But market mover was kind of my idea with player of the year. And I went to Fahu White, coming from a real outsider, kind of, he's a middle of the run forward to. He's your premier guy. So, yes, Teddy was doing his thing. Everyone kind of expects Teddy to do his thing. And he probably increased, from $3 to $2.50 or whatever. But Nafahu White came from 101 to $1. Yeah, I thought Nafahu was great.
I can respect it.
I
can
respect
where
it.
you're going.
Damn, I'm shocked.
I can respect where you're going. I know you built that with me, and I actually can see where you're going with that one. So, shout out to him. He does definitely deserve it. My player of the year for the Roosters is James Tedesco. I think he was absolutely incredible all throughout. The fact that he was written off basically State of Origin for, 2 years now, basically, and said, he's past it. Ever since I feel like that moment, he's had like this personal agenda to just prove everyone wrong, and he would not have looked out of place. Even now, if he didn't pull out because of his brother's wedding, he would have been on the Australian tour, and he would not have looked out of place at all. So I thought he deserved it. He's probably just behind Reece Walsh this year in terms of form fullbacks in the game. My rating for the Roosters this year is a B.
A B.
B.
Yeah, I've got him a B too, but I had an A until they lost to the Sharks. Yeah. So when they lost the Sharks in the way that they lost the Sharks, in terms of it was the storyline of what they do, and you sort of alluded to it at the start of the podcast, at the start of this retro around errors. There was an error-riddled year.
Yeah.
They were second worst in the comp for errors. They were 8th worst in the comp for penalties given. They were worst in handling errors, and they were the second worst in run meters. And like that coincides with each other. And I just think when you finish a game that everyone walked into really thinking the Roosters were going to win that game against the Sharks, and to play like that they were ugly. It was, to be fair, it was ugly. And I don't think the Sharks played all that well either. Sharks just did what they had to do to get away. I changed it to a B.
There you go, Roosters fans. Let us know in the comments what you think. Give us your player of the year. Was it Tedesco? Was it Nafahu White, or was it someone else that you want to give a special shout out to? And give us your season rating. All right, the Penrith Panthers. So the Penrith Panthers, their ladder position was 7th, points for 576, which was a ranking of 7th, average of 24 points per game. Their points against was 469, which was a ranking of 3rd for the season. Average was just under 20 points, so about 19.5 points there. Top try scorer, Paul Alamoti with 17. Biggest win, round 23 against the Newcastle Knights, 48-12 at McDonald Jones Stadium. Their biggest loss was round 26 against the Bulldogs, 28 points to 4 at a core stadium. That was, let's make sure we cover that by saying that was basically New South Wales Cup side. So against pretty much full strength Bulldogs side. So make of that what you will. They did also lose to the Broncos in the prelim final, so we're one game short of a grand final berth. But Retro, got to say, I'm still mighty impressed with this season that Penrith had. Like it's so funny because at round 12 they were coming last.
Yep.
To produce what they did, I feel like, yep, there might be arguments out there that they've put a lot of pressure on themselves in the back end. It may have hurt him in that Broncos game, but I also just look back and say that Broncos side was something else.
This will be slightly controversial, but I think this is Ivan's best coaching year. You know, so it's all well and good. You know, keep steering the ship when things are going well. When you're smashing through the ice and you got the ice break and everything's going well, great. But when the ice is closing around and the ship's not moving anymore, who's gonna break the ice? And it was Ivan. You know, Ivan was the one who stuck deep, who put some people around in some different positions, who played the game, and remember that game that they went over New Zealand and they had the baby Panthers and they came out and won. Like there were moments there, and I think there were some moments through the year where basically people were saying, Ivan, what are you going to do? And he's like, I don't know. But he found his way out. And I think that's, you know, not since the Tigers has he faced that kind of adversity.
There was literally times just before that round 12 game where he actually looked, in a way, defeated, I'll say, in terms of he just looked like he got to the stage where he genuinely didn't know what to do. Like he genuinely just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do right now, but I'll work it out. I know right now I'll work it out. It was just what do you think, Trav? It was a remarkable year, in my opinion. When you actually just look at the whole season, they've had so much happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remarkable year because they were started off so poorly. We all predicted that they would be thereabouts at the end anyways. Like, you had them second, I had them fourth but in our yearly prediction. So, you know, it's funny how we say it's a remarkable year when it's become a remarkable year because they had such a big drop-off. Like, you go from winning 4 premierships to being on the bottom of the ladder and after round 12 is huge. The thing I like your call about Ivan, and I did also say something similar around... This was probably one of the years where Ivan had to make some big calls, and I feel like he did. And in terms of benching Blaze Talangi early, like, you're not up to our standards. We're not quite there yet. You're not what I want. And he sat off when everyone's sitting there thinking he's shoe-in for their 6. Like, he was a shoe-in Luai replacement. The way he managed the McLean boys, the way he managed Alamotti, throughout the year, the way he managed some of the big boys. There's some really big calls. I think it was, I agree with you. It's an absolute Ivan masterclass in the coaching wise. And this year he really had to be a coach. Like, the last 4 premierships, like, there are moments where, not moments, but obviously he's the coach of a team that won 4 premierships in a year. But you look at in a row, but you look at the team that they had, and so they bloody well should have. This year he really had to coach them to get to where they were.
When we talk about the round 12 and then post that, so post round 12, when he basically, by all reports, just fed the players that were playing that game, he just said it wasn't Penrith standard. Yep, there were some of the big guys out and things like that, but it's not the standard that Penrith applied themselves for. They had an undefeated run that lasted 12 rounds all up. I know 11 rounds all up. So through rounds 13 to rounds 23, they had 9 wins and 2 byes. They just went on, and it was literally felt like to a lot of us, they were playing week in, week out grand final football in terms of if they lost one more game, they were effectively done for the year. It was just stupid to think about it.
They did have a few teetering moments along the way. So I was at the game where they...
Titans?
Yes, the Titans game. So at halftime, I was actually wearing a Titans jersey.
Trainer gate?
Well, even before that, right, at halftime, I had this Titans jersey on with a sticker on saying, like, you can buy this jersey off me. Like, you scan the QR code, you can buy it off my hat.
Yes.
And everyone's like,
Good
no
video.
one's buying that today. Sorry, mate. But then in the second half, we were all standing there cheering. We're at the same end where all the Penrith scored all their tries in the first half and Titans scored them all in the second half. So it was a great day to be there just for the fandom. But you're thinking, how are the Panthers letting that slip? And then I think it was the week after they lost the Raiders in Mudgee. So it's like all these really kind of close-ish games where the grip was starting to slip. But we'll talk about this in a second. I think Nathan Cleary was a huge, and this sounds like an obvious statement to make, was a huge reason that got them out of trouble. But we'll talk about why, I think, in a minute.
Yeah. They actually got themselves into the top 4.
At one stage.
Yep. And the only reason why they didn't make the top 4 was because they rested people. And then went, yeah.
So, I'm not sure that's
true.
true.
They did. If they didn't rest those guys, they would have made the top 4.
I think it was the Canberra game.
And then they ended up falling down to 7th.
If they won the Canberra game, they would have kept going. But I think the Canberra game got them to a stage where they were looking unlikely to make top 4, so they went all in with
it
resting and
might have
stuff.
led
They were still 4th. So Canberra, the game that they lost, they still were 4th. It was only watching what would happen with the Broncos and also the Sharks as to whether they would jump up.
Do you think it was the right call then?
To rest? They had to. Like, they put so much effort into getting to where they got to. Like, they were going to die on the arse. It was just, they had to do it. So, yes, it was the right call because of necessity. I don't think I think if they didn't, I truly believe they wouldn't have done it if they didn't have to put the fight in to go through to winning all those games in a row.
They might not have done it then.
And that Canberra game was a bit of a killer for them. So they kind of, due to necessity, they had to. And to be fair, I actually think they ran out of legs. Like, they were 10 points up in the prelim to the Broncos. They were winning. Oh, sorry, not 10
14.
points. They were 14 points up to the Broncos and just died the arse. Like, and granted, the Broncos turned it on. It was a massive second half. But, they just literally died. And they didn't have... Yeah, so even with the resting, they still didn't have it to finish.
I thought it was actually a masterstroke. Like, it's basically like if they mathematically thought or projected forward that we can't make the top 4 and therefore can't get ourselves a week off, we'll make one up. And they've done that in previous years. They've coming into finals and they've done things where they rest players and whatever else. Melbourne's done it last couple of years and whatever. I think the teams like the Panthers and the Melbournes have been great at manipulating their timing and their run to artificially give themselves weeks off like you would earn through a finals process. And I don't think you're right. I don't think they push as deep into the finals without it. There were moments, I mean, if Jesse McLean takes a step back and not called offside, they win that game.
Yeah.
He didn't get onside for the rest of the set, by the way, afterwards. I watched him the rest of the set. He still stayed 2 feet in front of the line. But there's just little moments in that game. They were not far away. There's some freaky stuff that happens in rugby league. That first try of the Broncos, deflection off legs.
A couple of Cleary-like moments too. And
to pop the ball to Blaze Slungy, he was in untouched. I keep just having that vision where Blaze is screaming into this hole.
And that's what I mean by uncleary-like. Like, Cleary doesn't miss that normally. Like, in 99.9 times out of 100, Cleary makes that pass. It was just one of those unclear-like moments where he thought he had to do something, whereas he didn't have his team on his back, which is unclear-like.
But to be fair, there's some moments in that game where he was ready to pull the pin and the people around him let him down. Yeah, it's that final moment where he's trying to kick a 2-point.
It happens to hard.
Yeah, you're trying to kick a 2-point field goal and the ball goes to his feet.
Yeah.
And other bits around where he's kind of getting people in the holes and they don't punch through or whatever. I thought this year, that game just before the finals, they played St. George, and I know it's St. George, but I just watched that game and went, wow, Nathan Cleary, he is amazing. Like, everything he did, he had time, he had options, he picked the right option every time. Coming into that final series, I thought, Cleary is cherry ripe to go. And I don't think it was Cleary he's not the one you shoulder the blame on. I know that's just what you do with halfbacks. But
we did out there.
Yeah, well, but I thought he was there. He was their great white hope in terms of them going further. And really, like we say, if Jesse McLean takes a step back, if one of those things doesn't happen, Penrith probably win that game, but that's rugby league.
My argument is they probably don't win a couple of these games on their run home that they needed to win if it wasn't for Nathan Cleary playing. Like, he was... I feel like he's often overly criticised by a lot of people out there who are just, I'll just put it plainly, jealous. They just don't like him. And they just don't take the blinkers off no matter what. It's just, I don't like Nathan Cleary, and that's it. Like, I actually feel like he had a really good year. Was it his best year so far of his career? No, but he holds himself so high up. It wasn't far off it, though. Like, if you actually look back, it wasn't far off it.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why, as controversial as it was, there's a reason why he ended up winning the League of Inches Player of the Year. Like,
not bring that back up.
No, but we do need to, because Retro mentioned it. Like, that last 12, 13 games, like, Cleary was a freak, like an absolute freak. And
he's getting 6 out of 6 almost every week.
Yeah, and that's why he was in where he was, because that run. And then he picked up a few votes early, like, in terms of how we sort of watch it as purists, as well as how our fans watch it as purists and fans and vote as well. So that's why he was there, because that run was just unbelievable what he did. And he single-handedly carried them through to get them there. Obviously, he had a partner in crime in Talangi and other guys stepping up to do the things that they did. But what your point is exactly right.
But the Talangi point as well is that he had this year where he also had to almost coach week to week Talangi to be able to work into not just the Penrith system, but to ensure Nathan Cleary could play his best style of football, because that then meant that Penrith would play their best style of football. And let's not forget, they've lost players every year, and we always seem to just forget that. But this year in particular, I feel like was their biggest losses, because they lost Jerome Luai, who has been absolutely massive for him.
It was a culture.
And they lost another chief energy guy in Taruva, who does a lot for them behind the scenes and gets them going. And then he, personally on a Nathan Cleary factor, he lost his other club captain who would have done a hell of a lot in terms of leadership, was James Fisher-Harris.
Yes.
It was three really big players this year, and I feel like that's what took them for so long to start to really get going this year. But that also, for me, ensures that Nathan Cleary's season, when you actually look at him, he would have also had to turn up his leadership, not just himself, but what he was going to do on the leadership, start to look after the club a lot more in his playing group and everything. It was really one of those coming of age years, which is crazy to think because he's been so good for so long. But I actually think the best of Nathan Cleary we still haven't seen yet.
No, and how much better was it that we got to see Cleary for 22 games? And the fact is that we got to see him for that 22 games, and he backed up after Origin. Like, one of the things that's been his downfall, obviously everyone wants to talk around what he's done in Origin, but Origin and NRL season are two very, very different games. And we can't, I don't like I'm a Queenslander, but I don't like the comparison of the two and that we judge him because of what he's done in Origin. We can't. We have to judge what he does for 27 weeks plus finals every year, and what he's doing is that. But the problem that's been Nathan Cleary's career, and he's been lucky that his team's been loaded, is his injuries and the amount of games that he misses. 22 games this year, which means this is how a Blaze Talangi, how all of these guys can step up, because they've got their leader, they've got their guy there. On that front, losing James Fisher-Harris, and then is what I wanted to talk again, and I missed this, about Ivan Cleary, is Lindsay Smith turned himself into a star forward, because he just literally stepped in. It was like they'd not even lost a thing. Yeah. Lindsay Smith had a huge year.
Yeah, I thought, if you think about the Panthers over the last 6 years, this is probably the worst Panthers squad in 6 years. Yeah. If you're getting progressively, you're losing players, right? So I totally agree with your point. Anyone who says Cleary has a bad year is still swallowing the bitter pill of State of Origin.
Yes.
If you're not looking at anything else, that's a conclusion you'll come to. But if Cleary keeps going, if the Panthers stay at the same level, yet losing players, well, mathematically, where's the increase coming from? It's coming from Nathan Cleary. Now, yes, the Lindsay Smiths are stepping up. Paul Alamoti, I loved him in the finishing rounds. He's such a big body. Bizza still being busy out on the edge.
Coming.
Jesse's on his way, all that stuff. But it was Cleary who just keeps going up and up. And there's been a critique around him. Not that he's bad, but the rest of the people can't keep up with him. He's too good. And so he's got to kind of work with the people around him a little bit here. One interesting thing, though, so we've been talking about the fact that the Panthers went down all the way down to 12th. And since then, and since coming through the finals, the commentary has been, you will not see that again. The Panthers next year, they're going to be terrifying. They're going to be this, they're going to be that. I agree with you. I would have also said the exact same thing last year. And so we can't rule out the possibility that it could happen again. We can't rule out the possibility that, when people say the dynasty is over, which technically is correct for people who are saying the dynasty is not over, you need to look up the definition of the word dynasty. It is finished.
Isn't it the streak's over, but the dynasty?
No, but the dynasty is a succession of rulers. So as soon as the succession is broken, the dynasty is broken. If you talk about it in more colloquial terms, yeah, you could maybe set that in there, but you're not playing with the right words. So anyway, whatever. The point is to say is that I expect great things from Penrith, but don't be so overconfident. Don't be so bought into the myth that they are unkillable gods, because they have shown the first part of this year, even gods bleed. So there is something there.
Man, he's showing us up to colloquial and all of these sayings. Holy moly. But I'm going to argue with you for this, and I've literally written it here and you can check. It's far from dynasty over. This is definitely far from it.
I just change your terms to say an era of dominance.
But I disagree. In sports, a dynasty is different. So in sports, a
don't know if you
dynasty,
just need to
they're
play
they're
around
not
with words
talking
like
about the greater Golden State Warriors in the NBA as having their dynasty over when they're still making finals, right? There's still a dynasty because those players, in terms of Curry and that, are still around.
Sure. Sports writers say a lot of dumb things, though. They also say, the Queensland State of Origin team has all but won the trophy after they won the trophy. Hold on. Those words mean that they haven't won the trophy. So sports writers love to say dumb things. I think we buy into these colloquial myths and things like that of what a dynasty is, as opposed to what it actually is. I'm fine with people using that term as like a general thing, but then when they turn around and bite it to, oh no, dynasty's not over, it's a streak. No, you've got the word wrong, not me. So you got to put those things together. But I think an era of dominance is an easier thing for everyone to settle on. That's generally what we talk about.
Let's
with that.
go era of dominance.
The 12
I
of
don't like it.
Queensland.
No, I'm a sports purist. It's
But
dynasty.
you're not a-
Dynasty's still there.
You're not. You're
No,
sports.
I am.
You're a sports abolitionist. You're
No.
got the word wrong.
No.
Anyway,
The Brisbane Lions in the AFL still have a dynasty. They've won 2 in a row.
That's it, that's
but
true.
But
That's
they
a
lost
dynasty.
one beforehand.
it's a dynasty. A dynasty is just about succession.
It was still a dynasty when the Lions won 3 in a row, and then they lost the 4th. That was still a dynasty. We're going to have an argument around this and I've got all different examples.
Yes.
Let's
Shout out
just
to the
agree-
school teacher.
Agree or disagree that the dynasty and the
Era.
era of dominance is still going
It's
in
still
my
going, yes.
in my opinion. The
There
streak
There
is
still
over. It's
will be a
like
dominant force.
WWE fans out there will know the Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania, and that finally ended. So
There'll still be many people putting them in top 4 next year.
no,
Oh,
that's what I'm
100%.
about to say. I'm about to say, can we just quickly express how grateful, I guess, as rugby league fans, we've got to witness history. Like, this has been an absolutely fantastic organisation that's going to continue to get better and better. I actually think, and we'll do obviously our previews next year in a few months' time, but they are looking very dangerous next year. They've got basically exactly the same squad, which they haven't had 4 or 5 years now, and they're all going to have more confidence. People like McLean, Talangi will just grow another leg. Like, they're going to be such a dangerous football side next year, and anyone who probably thinks they're going to go and be anywhere near the bottom of the ladder the next year has rocks in their head, because it's not going to happen.
And let's be honest, Cleary's actually only just starting to reach the prime of his career in terms of
Playing
age.
yeah.
So,
It's ridiculous.
he's only going to get better. That's scary.
Let's go our player of the year and our season rating. Retro, start us off.
My player of the year is Nathan Cleary. My season rating is B, just because I feel like they did have a little more in them that they could have given to give themselves an A, and they just didn't get there.
Yep, I've gone Nathan Cleary as well for my player of the year. I think we've already spoken enough about him, but a fantastic year on a couple of fronts. I thought he was fantastic. And my season rating, I agree. I think for Penrith and what we think of them, to not make the grand final at least is probably basically a failure for them, and just gets them away from that A, in my opinion. Trav?
No, Nathan Cleary, no-brainer for me, and I've got him an A because they were literally 14 points in front in a prelim when halfway through the year we didn't even think they were playing in finals. So, and they did it in a prelim in Brisbane. So yeah, I've still given them an A.
Penrith Panthers fans, let us know, firstly, if it's a dynasty, if it's the end of an era, if it's a streak.
Read a dictionary,
Please solve
people.
that, please. But let us also know the player of the year for what you
Make
think.
sure it's a sports dictionary.
And also your season rating. The New Zealand Warriors, so finished 6th this year, points for 517, which is a season ranking of 12th, averaged 21.5 points per game. Points against was 496, which was a season ranking of 5th, average of about 20 points per game there. The top try scorer, Leka Halasima, 13. Biggest win, round 14 against the Sharkies, 40 points to 10 at Shark Park. And their biggest loss was round 6 against the Melbourne Storm, 42 points to 14 at Amy Park. Feels like to me, boys, that this is sort of a tale of the Luke Metcalf season, unfortunately, for Warriors fans. With him, they just were absolutely on fire. Now, stats-wise, and where they finish in the ladder and things like that, it actually doesn't look as bad as what I feel like they actually look to the naked eye, because they looked a lot worse than what the numbers suggest. So with him, they were 4th by the week of his injury. They had 10 wins, 5 losses, and 2 byes. Without him, they were 6th. They ended up finishing 6th. 4 wins, 5 losses, and 1 bye. So by those numbers, it wasn't all bad, but Retro, I don't know what you think. I know you went to a couple of the Warriors games and things like that, but with him there, they looked like a completely different side, unfortunately, to when they did lose him.
To Warriors fans, my poor Fano, it all fell to pieces for him. And I think the ship started to rock in actually round 13, I believe it was, when Mitch Barnett went down. That was the rock. But there's another guy who stayed their rock throughout the year, and we'll talk about him later. But that was the nail in the coffin when Metcalf went down. Interestingly, and this was a bit of a off-the-wall call from Matt Rogers. I remember on his SEN show, he went through like the most valuable players he would sign right now. Nathan Cleary was not his number one. Luke Metcalf was. Now, maybe that's a bit out there, but still.
When did he say that?
Like towards the end of the year. Yeah.
Well, he was leading went on his injury. He was leading the Dally M.
I would have been after his injury, but yeah, the fact that like even with his injury, that he finished top 4 in Dally M's or something, didn't he? He was still very up there, right?
He wasn't top 4, but he was definitely on the page still.
Yeah. So yes, it's just a season of what could have been for the Paul Wars.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, you've got to hear very tough and resilient season. I think that's exactly what they showed, and they've got guys in their squad who next year will continue to be tough and resilient. There's a caveat that will sit over something that we'll come back to in a minute, but I think there's a lot of upsides for people to look to for the Wars, not only performance-wise, but culture. The fact that they've, for the second year in a row, sold out every home game. They are smashing kind of not only viewership, they're eating into rugby union over in New Zealand. Like it's just become a cultural phenomenon. Their merchandise and everything is just going crazy. It's almost like, in the NWA guys would wear like the Raiders, who were they back then?
Oakland.
It's become that synonymous link between kind of hip-hop street culture and the Warriors. It is going gangbusters over there. I think there desperately needs to be a second team in New Zealand, but that's another discussion.
That's pub talk, baby.
Yes, I think there's a lot to like about the Warriors.
21 teams.
Just not this year.
Retro rightly mentioned as well, like it wasn't just Luke Metcalf, Trav, it was also the loss of Mitch Barnett, which really hurt him. But in saying all that, they still end up finishing 5th in defence this year, which, again, it shows the resilience that they had as a club. It showed that no matter what, they continue to turn up because... Yes, they were losing a few more games towards the end, but they were still they weren't getting flogged. They were in there, they're in the fight. That says a lot about this culture that the Warriors are building.
Yeah. I mean, they were 9th in the comp for missed tackles, which is pretty good. 9th in the comp for ineffective tackles, which is really good. They were 2nd best for errors and 3rd best for penalties. So that's why your defense is up, is because they just they protected the pill and they tackled and it was effective and they did well with it. So... Yeah, I agree. Like their defense was fantastic and it held it, but I think that stems down to the coach. Right at the start of the year, Mr. Webster copped a bit of a flogging from one Mr. Johnson here.
Did he?
Yeah, because it's straight after Vegas, and you gave them a ride and said some big changes need to happen and blah blah. And
rightly so.
And it was. They got flogged by the Raiders, and agreed.
They obviously listened.
But have a look at what they ended up doing, right? So, and I think that has to come down to how good that coaching display was this year and what he has done. And unfortunately, this is a really good... Like, there are teams in this competition that dealt with a lot of injuries and probably and definitely made them drop to where they were on the ladder and things like that. But nothing... as star powery like as to what's happened to the Wars and how important it was to them for what they had to deal with. Because you also have to consider that they also lost Fisher Harris for a lot of the year too. Well, not a lot of the year, but in big chunks of the year too. So, yeah, injuries definitely played a big part of their season.
I was going to say something I forgot. Yes, no, I remember. I will keep banging on about this point. This is like a classic like fan thing to say. RTS to fullback. It's probably too late now because he's gone.
I actually disagree. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Just let me have my moment first before you shoot me down. I know he's probably going to Rugby 360 now, so it's a bit of a moot point. But I'm still that guy who's banging on about Roger back to fullback. And when everyone says he's too old, he's too this, he's too that, he goes and plays fullback and he brains it. And they go, oh, yeah, but maybe he won't do it again. But he will. You just won't put him back there. And it's not just the fans who are saying this. It's the James Grahams, it's the Brandys. There is some credibility there. Now, I'm not doubting Webby because he's there every day. And there is that Chuapiki flying around the background, but I don't know. I just think RTS is wasted on the wing. I still think he's got everything that people say that he's missing.
I mean, your name is retro, which implies that you're old school, which makes that an old school point, right? We need to come to an age. RTS is not their fullback. Although, do I think RTS is a better fullback than C&K? Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yes.
But I think it's Tuapiki, especially when Tuapiki went there fullback. They were much better. So I think it's there. And I like RTS out on the wing, to be honest. I like his flair. And if you really watch those games, he wasn't really a winger. He was kind of like a roaming winger. Like he was everywhere.
I'd like to see him roam a bit more, though. I didn't think he roamed enough. I like what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And I agree with your point. I'd actually have Shans as my third choice fullback at the Warriors. And he's currently the one that seems to get it more often than not. And obviously, Andrew Epps is doing what he's doing. We're not going to question that. He's achieved some great things this season with a side that had many excuses to not go as well and finish in the 8. There was a time there, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks out from the season, where many people were saying, oh, unfortunately, it's been a great year for the Warriors, but they're just not going to make the 8. They found a way to make the 8 still, which was a very, very good achievement. The leadership side of things for this club, I think this is where they've started to show they are really changing their identity as a club to this really tough. You're going to go back over to the Warriors, like the old school Warriors sides, and just get battered and bruised. Like, you're going to hate going there. You're going to hate coming back because you're going to be a very sore plane ride for a few hours. And I think that has a lot to do with, Mitch Barnett, but what James Fisher-Harris has done for this club already, I don't think anyone can undersell the importance and just how he is and how his aura is when it comes to all these Kiwi youngsters in this club and what that makes them do.
The difference between this time around of having the tough Warriors in previous times, in the past it's been based off, yes, you're going to get bashed up, but you're going to get bashed up by one guy, maybe two. This time around, they're building a gang, and it's Fisher, and it's Mitch Barnett, who's like Kevin Campion 2.0, and Aaron Clark, who we haven't spoken about yet. You know, he came from total obscurity. Don't forget, like, before he landed on the Gold Coast, he was basically out dead to the water. Looked like he'd never come back to rugby league again. Now, just won Lockdale EM Lock of the Year and RLPA Lock of the Year and by the year from the RLPA voted by that. So he has been absolutely phenomenal there. And it's a difference between having like your one Ruben Wiki or your one David Kidwell and having the gang.
Yeah.
And you can't underestimate it. Everyone talks about like the Warriors only do well when they got an Aussie half, which is true at the moment with Luke Metcalf. But you got to have an Aussie tough guy in there too, and Mitch Barnett is that guy. I mean, don't forget, he played a State of Origin game 1 and missed the rest only through that injury. So
massive loss for the Blues.
Yeah, I mean, sure, Johnson wasn't a bad half.
No, he wasn't. That's true.
What statement that one.
Stacey Jones wasn't too bad either. We won't go there. You're absolutely right about Aaron Clark. He was phenomenal this year. He was struggling to crack a Gold Coast Titans side. They look like they have egg on their face now because he was absolutely massive this year, Trav. It was something to behold.
Yes. Yeah. I can only speak positive about him. I mean, the awards that he got at the end of the year, it really proved it, how good he was and what he did. It certainly helped when Dylan Walker got sacked. Let's be fair, he got sacked, and that essentially that was like the license to Clark, wasn't it? Like that was where they turned to Clark and said, "Well, now you're our big minute guy. This is your spot. Walker's not going to come in and replace you," which he did a few times to start the year and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was a big year from him. I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and this is probably where you're going to go next, Joel, about Leka Halasima. And phenomenal year, breakout star. He is what we thought Valis Tafare was going to be from the Dolphins. You know, this rugby union convert. He's got this big body, bash him, trash him, but he's going to also be like flary and whatever. And Tafare never developed into that, so it seemed. Although I think he's doing some better stuff in union. But here's Leka. Here's the thing, though. Warriors fans, don't jump too quick to that as like this is where we're going. Because the Warriors' success has come at the expense of the flair of the old, days where people just throwing balls over the back of their head and whatever. The reason the ship has been righted, that the rails are on the track, the train is on the track, is because of the tough grit, and then you add that little bit on top. So love Leka, love all the flair and whatever, but don't get too carried away down that track, or you're going to become the Warriors of old.
I think I like what you're saying, but I actually think Leka's in a really good position here because it's not just him. Like Harris DeVita had a really good year this year. Healy stepped in for that couple of games, and I thought he's going to push Egan, and he should. Leatua, Halasima, Laban, Valmonga. Like there's a whole heap of guys who have star potential rated around them, and I think Lecker's the leader of that young group that's going to push the Wars further and further. But I think he's not going to be that messiah kind of thing that you're trying to help to say. Fans, calm down a bit.
When you think let's just get ourselves out of trouble by giving the ball to Halasima, you've lost the plot.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can't be that Marky Mark style figure or whoever like, oh, rescue us. That means the ship's gone too far.
Yeah. And I feel like what they've got the best sort of mix at the moment of is the fact that, they're a very tough, gritty team, but I like the fact that they do have some of those flary players that can light up or score that try if they need to, like we've seen Halasima do, like Tuapiki we know has a brilliant, bright future can do, like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck can do. They've got a lot of these players, and it helps because they've got players like Fisher-Harris, Barnett, Clark, who are happy to put basically their head where people wouldn't put their feet and just do that work to allow these other players to show their superstar qualities. And it's a really good balance that the Warriors have at the moment. I think the big last point I want to make here is that it also, I'm not worried about what their future looks like because they've got great leadership at this club, not just playing wise. Coach is well on top of everything. He's come from a very good culture and being involved with the game on that side of things for a lot of his career. And Cameron George, our CEO, he's just a fantastic guy. He knows everything there is about the game. Obviously, I got to interview him at the start of the year, and it was a fantastic chat. Warriors fans, please go and listen to it. But he's so switched on. He loves the fans. He genuinely loves the game and genuinely loves the Warriors as well. And I think while they've got these sort of key ingredients as part of this in this mixing bowl, they're not any threat of, in my opinion, losing that anytime soon.
Until the last couple of days when I saw the news about Metcalf and potentially getting shot. Now that can make a massive change, but
Jet Cleary's coming up.
Yeah, well, I guess we see. The other thing that I think is also a question mark, which I've written here, is age. They're pretty old. There's a lot of old guys for sports in the NRL. Like you look at Capewell, Ford, RTS, Egan, C&K, Niokora. Like there's some older guys in that team, and age is going to be a question mark.
Capewell's an interesting one. They've got some good young edge back rowers. It's like, do they pull the pin now, and do they have Capewell as just
Capewell? I think he's one of the guys you have to keep around, but he's still playing Origin. Like he's still. You've got to keep for a young list with the list of guys that I mentioned before, and then you want to solve these problems of the potential public pressure that gets put on a Halasima. You need to keep a Capewell around. You need to keep that there.
Yeah, and they're the guys who set standards as well. I would have no big issue. I mean, don't forget, you talk about players like him, or you talk about even Chad Townsend at your club. Oh, what are you wasting your money on him for? You spend way more money in a halves coach. You spend way more money in a defensive director or whatever else like that. So having a guy who does both for you, pretty economical.
Yep.
So I don't think that's a big issue. I mean, in all likelihood, RTS is probably on his way out. So Tuapiki stays fit. He can fit that mold, and I think they'll be fine. But you're right. I was just Googling that as you said it. Luke Metcalf looks like he's going to test his value on the market.
Oh, he already has. It's come out as he is going to.
Yeah, so that's worrying.
November 1 coming off an ACL at the moment as well, which obviously comes into play, and he should be ready and fit, I believe, by the start of next season. So
it's amazing how quick these ACLs are recovering. Like it wasn't that long ago. It was a pure blown 12-month injury.
Yeah. And I think with the way, as we said before about Sam Walker and how he came back, I think he should be okay for round 1, if not very early in the year. Our player of the year and our season rating for the Warriors, for me, I know he was injured for a lot of it. I actually had to go Luke Metcalf, just with how good he was at the start of the year and how much of an impact he made. He's still, in my opinion, learning how to play halfback. He wasn't a natural halfback, so that's big enough in itself. And I just think how much difference it made to the Warriors when he wasn't there showed you just how good he was for this side. So I've got to give it to Lukey Metcalf. I know I've missed a guy that you probably both have named, but I just wanted to, just from the impact of what had happened, I'm not going to do an honourable mention. I'm not going to go that low, so I'll just wear the punches. My season rating is a B for the Warriors. I thought they had a really good year in the end, especially when you take into consideration some key injuries there. Had many excuses to not make the 8. They found a way to fight to do it. Plenty of good fighting battles in that season they had. So Warriors fans can be very proud. And like you said, and I'll back it up, shout out to the Warriors fans who were absolutely incredible once again this year and just continues to show the NRL and other clubs how to do it. It's very special. Trav?
I think you wrote Metcalf down completely forgetting about this guy and then sat there for a couple of minutes trying to justify your thoughts so that you didn't look so silly. Aaron Clark was by far their best player by miles and afar because it's a whole year for most of it, and I'm giving them an A, and the reason why I'm giving them an A is because, Joel, you had them at the start of the year in 12th, and I had them in 11th. And actually, we both, and I remember us both saying, I'm actually very concerned about the Wars and their list and what they're doing. And I remember us having this conversation in our previews at the start of the year, is that we didn't see a lot of potential and a lot of positives. And then to look at where they were pretty much for most of the year, they were 4th. On the back of the only reason why they fell and the way I actually thought they played pretty well against Panthers. It was only just the Panthers being healthy and just having that class that got them over the line. To get a home final and do what they did, that's an A for me.
I agree with Aaron Clark. He was their rock when everyone else, was injured or out or missing. Aaron Clark held the ship. And don't forget, it wasn't that long ago that they lost Jazz Tavanga and everyone was like, it's their favourite son, he's gone, which I did feel a bit sad for him. But Aaron has just stepped into that spot and shown, I'll lock down this position. I gave them a C, but it's just not their fault. It's just the world crumbled around them and they did what they could, and so they passed by that. But they knew they could have done so much more. Just didn't happen for them.
The alphabet, A, B, C.
I'll wave the white flag. I am guilty of one thing. I did this about 10 minutes before we started. Completely forgot I had a massive day. Aaron Clark, you are my player of the season.
What a conformist.
Let me know. Let us know in the comments, Warriors fans, who your player of the year was. Was it Lukey, Matt? Are you going to back me up? Or end your season?
You even back yourself.
Well, I can't. I've gone back. And let us know your season rating as well. Cronulla Sharkies, season finishing position of 5th. She got to the prelim final against the Melbourne Storm. Points for was 599, which is a season ranking of 6th. Average of just under 25 points a game. Points against was 490. They were 4th for their season ranking. Average points of about 20.5 points per game as well. Top try scorer, the energy guy himself, Ronaldo Mulatalo, with 17. Biggest win was round 24 against the Gold Coast Titans, 54 points to 22 at Shark Park. And then their biggest loss was round 14 against the Warriors, 40 points to 10. Tell you what, boys, what an odd year for the Sharkies, if I'm fair in saying that. I can't put my finger on it. I feel like they've had a good year in the end. They got to the game before the grand final. They lost to the Storm, which I think everyone gives them a pass mark for. It's a very hard place to go to and win a football match. To be fair on them, though, there was a few chances there that I think they'll look back and go, we lost it ourselves. We really did. We should have been on that grand final stage. And Trav, what do you make of the Sharkies season?
I'm not as harsh. I feel like that's a little bit harsh. They finished 5th on the ladder. They got to the last 4, lost to a tough Storm in a prelim in Melbourne, as you said. So, yeah, but
I'm not saying it's
I
bad.
get what you're saying.
I'm not sure.
No, yeah, and I get what you're saying. Absolutely, I do. Because it's not like it kind of comes out of nowhere, and then we spend a lot of the year going, what are you doing? Like, come on, Hines and Trindle, sort this out. Come on, Fitzy, figure out what you're doing in the coaching. Will Kennedy's not a good fullback, blah, 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 blah. AFB's here. He's not having the AFB year, yet he still leads the stats in terms of as a forward and all of this sort of thing. And then there they are, losing in a prelim. I get what you're saying. I do. And I'm still sitting here. It's like it's constant rhetorical questions about the Sharks. You just can't answer it. There's no answer for them.
The line in the sand moment for the Sharks was the game that they won against South Sydney, I think in Gosford. Either way, they won, and they won very ugly against a really understrength South Sydney.
Yeah.
Now, they almost got beaten at the end.
Yep.
And that was the moment where but also a lot of other people said, what's going on with the Sharks attack? They're a bit of a boring team to watch.
Yep.
All this kind of stuff. And even though the next week, I think they came out and lost to St. George the next week, but things changed. And I noticed, like, there's something going on here straight away. And they spoke about that. Basically, Fitzy sat them down and then said, like, or they talked to each other, said, we can't keep doing this. We've got to do something. Now, they did develop a little oddly, I think, the kind of no one respects us attitude coming out the other side. And it was funny, like, a lot of critics came out and said, but you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting one. And it's like the Craig Gowers or whatever the world saying, like, it's not we don't like you, it's just you haven't done anything. You're not really that much of bad boys. But they started to believe it internally. And I think they actually started to play, they just started to defend very Queensland origin-like. They just absorb pressure. So that game against the Roosters and also the game against Canberra, in the finals, pressure was just getting mounted on them. They're going to crack, and they never did.
Yep.
So that was a huge thing in their favour.
It kind of felt like what you were saying there was kind of forced for them in terms of, or by them, that us against them mentality. They sort of brought up themselves and then just started to lead with it. Then everyone else was like, you know what, actually, yeah, kind of like, but then like you said, everyone then rightly pointed out, well, you haven't had anything so far to back up what you're trying to say, but at the same time, it worked for them. They ended up really timing their run well, like we speak about.
But I just noticed in that game against Melbourne, so Nico started to become angry Nico. And that worked for him for a bit. And then he came up against Melbourne, and I can't recall who it was. Like, someone made an error or something. He came up and shoved him, and then they shoved him back, and he was a bit like, oh, yeah. This is like, oh, hold on. I got challenged here. Maybe this isn't the best. Whatever. But I don't know. Like, it obviously worked for him for a bit, whether they continue on that attitude or whether it was just a one-done campaign style thing. But they really righted the ship. They turned things around, and it became like 2017 Cowboys, where everyone said they won't get past week 1, they won't get past week 2, and here they were again. So there's good stuff there, but we'll come back to it. Where next?
They won their last 7 of 8, so they definitely
They did.
timed things right, Trav. It was
They actually won 9 of the last 11 to make it even further. So it was a really good dynasty. What a dumb comment.
I love it.
On that point, right, about this chatter and stuff, I really liked what Mulatalo did in the finals in terms of how he gave it, like how he gave it to Marky Mark, like, and said, hey, you're Marky Mark, but hang on, don't forget what we can do. And what I'm Mulatalo, I can do that. I like what he did against Canberra. And then I like the way he spoke about it going into the Storm. And I know you did too. We spoke about it on our live shows. So I really like that chatter. And the thing was that's what we kind of spoke about. If it wasn't about the Trindle and Hines half combination and how we got annoyed every week around what worked and what didn't, we really didn't have much to talk about him. And it was only just then that when Mulatalo puts some outlandish stuff or does something outlandishly that we talk about him.
Yeah, I'll walk back my comment slightly there. Oh, that wasn't really mine. It was more reporting on what other people are saying about the whole situation. But we talked about all the time, like, oh, these players, they don't give us any attitude. They don't give us any pizzazz. Then they do, and then we poo-poo them for it.
Yeah.
So I'm walking that back totally. I want more WWE villainry. That's why I like Latrell. Like, he's a total villain, but he plays that character so well. So yeah, give us more of that. Sell more tickets. Do more, Gallon calling Queenslander 2-headers and all this kind of stuff, because it gets people, it's bums in seats. It's real rugby league, more of it.
Well, it makes them play their best version, I feel like, for the Sharks, because over the last couple of years, it feels like whenever Ronaldo is that type of character, it's reflective in the Sharks' performance. That's when they are probably at their best, and now they've got players like Fanua Blake who will back him up. If something starts, guess who will be front and centre of that and lead it? It'll be Fanua Blake, and there's not many others in the comp that you want in your corner, so it probably helps them have that bit more of a, oh, sweet, I've got someone now to back me up with that.
And just when you think, oh, AFB's been subbed off, things will get lighter for us. Nah, those other forwards roll off the bench, and the intensity
Someone like Talakai, who was massive.
It never dropped. Uele is, leave us alone.
Yep.
Please, these big
Rudolph.
offers.
Yeah.
They just never stop.
Rudolph's end of the year was exceptional.
The last game was a little error-riddled, but before that, very good. Yeah.
I don't know if you boys can see it in here, but there's this massive elephant in the room. You've both already alluded to it, so let's tackle it, because it reared its head up again this year a number of times. It's this halves pairing, and what is going on, because I still get to the stage where I don't know who is the lead here for this halves pairing. They feel like they alternate it almost weekly, and they did that throughout the season as well. Towards the back end of the year, it felt like to the naked eye they played their best when Nico took the lead. And Trindle was basically just the kicker sort of thing for the side, and just popped up here and there and played spur of the moment sort of eyes up football, which he sort of feels like in his natural game works well. But where are we at with him, boys? Where's this halves pairing?
Let's sit in silence, because that's probably
yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that could be partly a solution, adds more question marks, is Dan Atkinson is coming into the squad, and I like him.
No, he's leaving.
He's gone now there.
Oh, sorry, he's going to St George, isn't he? No, that's right. But even then,
He was there for this year though.
He was
there was talk about shifting around some things and then putting Nico back to one. And I don't know. I just don't know.
Silence is the answer, right? But I've written here the half combo question marks. I mean, to be fair, they're great in big wins, but really struggled when it got tough. And then and it was close. And
You're talking about the halves.
Yeah. And, and then I think you've sort of touched on the point, is that Kennedy is just not that fullback that they need. Or really, does he offer anything? And I think Kennedy as the fullback doesn't help them as a halves.
I will say that you said before that Kennedy's not good. I don't think that's true. I think Kennedy is a good halfback. You might even concede he's a very good halfback, but he's not an excellent halfback. He's a bit like Clint Gutherson. He's a guy who does a job, and is he going to win you a premiership? But there's only a handful of great halfbacks out there.
I can't believe he did that. This is not. With this, we need to save this for pub talk, because I just don't agree. I don't think he's very good. And if you actually go through and have a look at many of the content creators Kennedy's got, no, I don't think he's bad.
Yes. Okay, so you can set it at least on good.
Yeah, he's not very good, and he's nothing like Gutho.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I got Gutho way ahead of him. Yeah. Even at Gutho at the end of this year.
By that I mean, though, you've got a stayer of a fullback who do you a good job. I never thought Parramatta were going to win a premiership with Gutherson at fullback.
My argument, and the way I think about Kennedy, and it's popped up towards the end of the year and how people are speaking about him and rating him and that. My question is, with the other fullbacks in the competition, even some of the reserve grade fullbacks in the competition, I'd replace so many of those with Will. I'd replace all of them for Will Kennedy in a heartbeat.
There's 3 potential fullbacks on a New Zealand team that I'd have in front of Will Kennedy.
The Titans, I'd probably have all 3 of those.
There's all 3 of them on there. So there's 6 just from 2 teams that I think are better than Will Kennedy.
You got to be able to afford them all, right? That's the only linchpin thing. So sometimes you can have a budget player. But generally, you don't think it's a budget fullback.
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, that fullback, I don't think blends well with those halves, and therefore we talk about the halves and what they have to do.
Do you think they can win a comp?
No.
With Will Kennedy at fullback? I don't think they can win a comp.
No,
but I don't think they can win with Nico at fullback either.
I don't think Nico's the answer.
I think I'm just some view notes that I wrote down. And some of those young guys that you mentioned just before, some of those Kiwi guys. I mean, I don't think who's it from the Gold Coast? Keanu Kinney. I don't think he's on the market or anything.
Brimson,
but
JC.
Trey Fuller.
Yeah,
I think he'd be electric out the back there for them.
Buller.
And once again, and also I don't know whether he's on the market or whatever. Jaden Campbell. Running around at fullback, I think for the Sharks to be the Preston Campbell return, that could be really cool for them. But I don't know where he's at market-wise.
I've loved that call for a while. I've had that sitting in the back of my mind for a month or two now. I think that'd be a nice little family tie, him going back.
But Trey Fuller is my man. I just think someone needs to throw him the keys. I love
I'm an absolute fan of Fuller. I think Fuller's the Dolphins fullback. But But to answer your question in terms of what they do, I absolutely think that they are better if Hines is the lead. I don't think there's any questions. Trindle will pop up as a 5'8" should when your halfback is not having that game like that. That happens, and he should. And Trindle's pretty good to then lead you around the park and do that for that one moment. But if you have to rely on Trindle 2 weeks in a row, 3, 4, 5, 6, half a season, that's when they're in trouble. That they are much better when Nico Hine is attacking the line deep, using his speed, setting people up, floating through the back. That's when the Sharks were better, in my opinion.
And they did combine well at times. They scored that good combination try against, I think it was against the Raiders. The other thing is, it's probably not too out of place in this discussion, is the role of Brayley. In this. Because I think a little bit like you're talking about with Wade Egan, and we'll talk about soon with the Storm, how much direction is coming out of there, and also how much go forward he has. Now, did they lock him down?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so he's out of the clutches of Perth.
Yep.
So I think he may be the linchpin in that. Is not so much about who gets on better between Nico and Braden Trindle, but who combines whether with Brayley, and then how you work that out from there.
There is absolutely no coincidence whatsoever that the Sharks started playing their best brand of football when they gave Blake Brayley an attacking license.
Yep.
It was just so clear to everyone that, look, we talk about the halves and they haven't been great, but I also think they started playing their best football because Blake Brayley and the forward pack got them on the front foot. Both of those halves are naturally running halves. That they like to play on the front foot, running the ball. And with Brayley getting out and being that guy, it forces them to get up and get the ball on the run, where for the start of the year, they're getting a lot of the ball basically standing still and then having to go. They just need to keep doing that because Nico Hines has a great running game. We've seen it throughout his career. He's had a really good running game. So they just need to make sure this license that they've given Blake Brayley, it's getting him on the Australian side, which is awesome to see. They need to keep that going into next year because it is the key part for mine for the Sharks next year. Last one, just reaching the prelim. Is it a pass mark for them for the year? Because so far for the last couple of years, they've improved almost each year, and this is another stepping stone for them. I think, like we've rightly said, they'll be disappointed with that game against the Storm. There was moments there that had that game won. Like I said, they'd be sitting back doing reviews and things like that. They'll probably go back November 1 and talk about it again and say, really, it was one that we let go. You as a Storm fan, Trav, watching that one, I know we had that chat. You were worried at multiple stages throughout that game with the way Sharks were. But is it a pass mark for them, or do you think they should have gone that one step further?
I don't think they were good enough to make a grand final, so no, I don't. Do I think that's a pass mark? Absolutely. I've actually given them a higher than a pass mark in my overall grade, so definitely higher than a pass mark.
Pass mark?
Yeah, I mean, if we're jumping to the end right now, I tell you, I've given them an A. Because I think they're redlining. I think Fitzy's ringing out every little bit he can get out of them. That's the question. What more do you do to get past a good internal rating to an external good result?
Yeah. Is there a limit, you think?
Well, right now it looks like it. Like, because that's the thing. Like, what's coming next? And no one coming from the clouds to save them. So what's coming next?
They've lost good depth for next year as well at this stage, which again we'll get into in a later date. But that's an early worry for mine for the Sharks next year. They've lost. He hasn't played much, but he's a great young future player in Cade Dykes. He's gone to the Dogs. Atkinson, you've already mentioned, but not having him next year is that safety blanket in that halves that he could do everything.
Well, even as they're 14.
It hurts them a lot. So there's a lot of pressure next year in terms of making sure they stay healthy on the field, because I like where you're going with that, and I actually agree. I just feel like this was sort of them getting to that pinnacle, and unfortunately for mine, I felt like the pinnacle, they needed to get to the grand final this year. That was like, I can start to see and start to go over that little bit of the mountain type thing. I'm interested to see what next year has in store for the Sharks.
I think you're both on a good point. I think this is their max, that they're capped here. Now, and that's hard to say. I don't think they're going to make a grand final. I don't think they're good enough to make a grand final. Was AFB, this year was their year, I think, to do it. If they were going to do it, it had to be this year with the way that it panned out, like with the Raiders coming out of nowhere and Panthers dropping off early and the Storm being inconsistent, the Broncos being poor early and then doing what they did. This was their year to really capitalize on what happened, and I think they've capped out. I think your example of the red line, with the car, it's they're revving the crap out of it right now, and this is as far as it's going to go. But potentially making top four, winning 15-9, being a prelim, it's still a pretty good year. It's still good to have. As a fan, you're still pretty comfortable and pretty happy in that. But yeah, you made a really good post during the year, which we spoke about on live, is that are the Sharks fans some of the most, what do we say, the most frustrated fans? Because you look at this list on paper, it's you look at the names and you think, okay, so there is some stars here. Like, there are edges in their attacking power. Like, you think Mulitalu, Katoa, Iro, and Ramian. Like, that 4 as a combo was probably top 3, if even higher, like as a combo. Hines and Trindle, just names on paper, are really good players. AFB is a premier prop. Nikora is a forgotten man on the edge. The way that Hazelton they signed I think is really incredibly underrated, and they've just given him a 500 case. Well, at last off season, that there's some really good players across there, and I can understand why Sharks fans are frustrated, but I do agree that where they are is capped. I don't think they're going to get anywhere any further, and that they might fluke an injury-riddled thing and get to a grand final or whatever, and then they've really got to capitalise it. But I think what they got here in the context of the NRL is a really good point. This is where they're at.
Player of the year. You've already gone your ratings. So player of the year.
I thought Adam Fanua-Blake, he added the starch and he led the way of how those forwards were going to punch through the middle, and he did that. I know he wasn't always on the park, but he set the standard of how we're going to do things.
He kind of sums up the Sharks season, because for mine, I didn't feel like he had a fantastic year, but then you go back and look at his numbers and everything.
Yep.
He actually was right up there. He actually, if you just looked at stats alone, and that's why I always say to people, don't always just focus everything you do off stats, because it can sometimes be a little bit misleading. I don't think he was his perfect self we've seen in the past, but he was still pretty bloody good. So, and just to remind you gave him an A.
Yes.
Player of the year rating?
Player for me is Blake Brayley. Or Brake Brayley, so I should say. I on the season, I gave them a B. After the finals, I've given them an A. So, yeah, to get to 5th, where at, because I think to start off with, in our season ratings, I had them 2nd. I was very high going into this year on that list and what they were doing. And you, Joel, had them in 3rd. So, I think a B going into at the end of round 27, but then after making the prelim, an A.
I was closer once again, guys. Just keep noting that he always pays me out, but I think so far in this, I've actually had some better results. But anyway, I've gone Blake Brayley as well. I thought he was absolutely incredible. I love to see what he can do and develop his attacking game even more. He's literally had, 10 games now of being able to attack. Wait till he gets to do a preseason now. Wait till he gets the whole season next year. I think he's going to start to, and I think he'll get Origin football next year, which I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does on that stage. And I know Harry Grant's had basically a mortgage on the hooker, being the best hooker in the game for some time now. I think Brayley's really starting to come for him, so he definitely is. And I've given him a B for the year. Sharkies fans, let us know who your player of the year was, and also your season rating. The Canterbury Bulldogs. Here we go. The finishing position was 3rd out in straight sets, unfortunately. Points for 534, which was a season ranking of 10th. Average was 22.2 points per game. Points against was 414, which was a ranking of 1st for the season. Incredible defence. Average of just over 17 points per game. Top try scorer, Jacob Preston with 12. Biggest win was round 21 against Manly, 42 points to 4 at Allianz Stadium. And then the biggest loss was round 12 against the Dolphins, which was 44 points to 8 at Accor Stadium. Boys, let's start this one off with a big question. Did the Bulldogs self-employ? Did they self-employed?
I'll answer your question with a question.
Can't even say the word.
I'll answer yours. Oh, actually, no. But I'll write. If it ain't broke, don't bloody fix it. They were first after.
What are you talking
11.
about?
You're saying they're self-implosion. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They were first after 11 rounds. They imploded. Absolutely imploded.
So I would contend with that, and Dan Ganane got himself in a bit of trouble saying something similar. I won't go as far as him when he said they haven't beaten anybody. That wasn't true, I don't think. But I think that going into that position when they were redlining at first, I think it was a bit of a false economy. I think it was a stage where they were coming first, the Raiders were coming second. The Raiders had more wins than them, even though they were higher in points because they had more buys. And they had a pretty soft early run coming in. And it's interesting listening to that interview with Cameron Serrato and Paul Kent. It was that Dolphins game that you just mentioned about their biggest loss was the one where they went, something's not right. Something's got to change. And that was something where they had been identifying things particularly with Toby Sexton and how well Haywood had been playing and the energy and the communication that they thought he brought, that it wasn't so much about getting Reid Marnie out, it was just how do we get more of Haywood in. I'll be a bit of an apologist on Galvin in that I don't think he was the issue. Whether there's notes of cohesion and how that fell apart, so be it. But we'll talk about it in a second. We'll come back to this point about defence. And I think there's some telling stats coming out the rear end that show you maybe the defence wasn't what it was cracked up to be in those early rounds.
I agree with that. I think I do agree what you said there. What I don't necessarily agree with in what Serrato's trying to sell, that round 12 performance, it was also they had a bad one against the Broncos a bit earlier with that as well. Both were in the wet. They struggled to play in the wet for a lot of the year. But they were obviously, I think Gavin signed that week. So that wasn't just a spur of the moment decision. They were already in their heads planning all of this. And I get the Raiders wins-wise were ahead of them, but they were still, in my opinion, a top 2 football side. They were still playing some fantastic football. We saw throughout the whole year there is no easy games in rugby league anymore. So whether they had an easy draw or not, I don't really buy that because no team anymore is easy. It just really just depends on who you play. Like you saw in the back half, they had some harder teams. I get that. But at the start of the year as well, there's so many teams working out things and everything. The way the Bulldogs were playing and the way they played their best football, and we saw it because, in a way, they sort of waved the white flag towards the end of the year because they started to go back to what was working for them at the start of the year.
That I will concede that point. That was the confusing thing in that last game where they're like, let's throw everyone back in. So let's have Sexton and Galvin. Let's have Marnie. Like everyone was kind of back in the whole gang was all back together. I didn't quite understand that one. I will concede that.
That was the confusion because it's almost like they had a fight with everyone in the media throughout the year. Gus was leading it on 100% footy almost weekly, but then it took them to the last most crucial game of their season to go, oh, by the way, this is how it felt to me anyway. You guys are basically right about all this. And yes, Marnie was the big one. I can get signing Galvin. I'm not going to have a go at the Galvin signing at all. He's one of the best young talents in the game. No one will dispute that. I don't like how it completely derailed and basically moved all their spine. But what I don't get is Reid Marnie was, by the length of the Flemington Straight, the best hooker of that club throughout the whole year, and to be pushing this and ramming down for the Dogs' throats that we're basically doing this to plan for next year and beyond. Next year's never a given. Like all it takes is one or two. If they lose Crichton like in the preseason with an ACL, their season's already done. They're not going to do much. Yeah. They had a chance this year to really ramp home, be a top 4 side, and look like they could win a competition. And their own choosing decided. They decided internally, we won't prioritise this year, which I just think is crazy.
I don't think that's true. I think that's an external thing put on the Dogs. I don't think that's true that they weren't pushing for a comp this year. That's why when they went for Galvin, they wanted something out of him now. That's why they were pushing for these things with Toby Sexton and pushing Haywood into the side now, is because they thought they could go somewhere. And Sorrell, they did say in that interview, it wasn't just like one day they flipped around and said, let's throw everything up in the air. They actually had their eye on Galvin coming. They just didn't think he'd be available for another 2 years. And then with these incremental changes, they're kind of having these continuous conversations that this is what we want from you. This is what we need. We need more attacking prowess. Plus, Galvin coming in the side, a lot of people just assume that Galvin was in. Like he just bought day one, that he was just into the squad, no questions asked. They weren't planning originally on him being in the squad. So they bought him, and Serraldo says on the first day of training he showed up, and they go, this kid's hopeless. Not quite that strong. But they're like, this guy is not going to work. By the end of the week, they're like, I think we need him in our squad to beat Parramatta. So there was things revealed as they went along the road to go, this is how we think things will work best for us coming out the other side.
And did it?
Well, I think this is the thing. People are so confident that they were going to win the comp in rounds 1 to 12. I was waiting for the bubble to burst in rounds 1 to 12. And I think the bubble was going to burst no matter what. Now, they're in better position for next year, but I don't believe that this year was just a write-off, that they just went for the year ahead.
See, I completely and utterly disagree with you. Joel, you're right. You know, there is no easy game in this competition at all. And we've seen it over and over and over again, and on the weekly basis. There is not. And you're leading the competition after 11 rounds. There's a reason why you're leading the competition after 11 rounds. It's because you're pretty bloody good. And then you make the changes. And then what happens when you change? They started losing. Like they lost 5 of their last 6, and the only game that they won was the game against Panthers when the Panthers literally rested everybody, and they were playing the bloody the second string Q Cup players. Like
that was almost third.
It was insane, and even then, the Bulldogs didn't really even look that convincing to beat them. And then when the Panthers were full strength, what happened? They got flogged.
Yeah,
Panthers flogged them, right? So. Yeah, I completely disagree with this. They were ready to implode. Like, it imploded because of poor decisions. It's not because it was waiting for it or the destiny sort of spoke about it. It was because poor decision happened and the way that they played, and they didn't and the culture was ruined over those times with some of those changes. And you could see it. Like, you saw what Crichton did. Like, how did Sexton react in those early stages during the middle of the rounds when they started making these decisions about Galvin coming in 14 and then going in a hooker? It was just there was just so many things that are so disappointing, because I rate Serrato as a really good coach. And I rate that team, and I was very high on the Bulldog going into this year. Right? They were a premiership favourite for me, or one of. And they definitely imploded.
I like sort of the Serrato stuff and how he's talking in the media, but also in a way, like, and I don't want to be too harsh on him because they did have a good year overall, the Bulldogs. But I think what him and Gus have been very good, especially Gus, is playing the game in the media and trying to make everything, basically sell this big story and cover their asses basically almost on a weekly basis. And like, he started off by saying never met Galvin, things like that. His big call of saying Galvin was the best junior he's ever seen is absolute load of hogwash. Every rugby league fan would know he's not even in the top 10 of young talent we've ever seen. It's just absolutely crazy talk to say that. And he put so much pressure on Galvin from the get-go. And you mentioned it, they had original plans of saying Galvin was coming over, we'll sign him now, but he wasn't going to be in our early plans. Stick to that then. You don't need to throw everything out because you guys then made that decision to play him. He wasn't a halfback. They should have let him have about at least a month in New South Wales Cup to develop skills as a halfback, because it's a completely different style of game.
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting point you make there about a halfback. And that's another thing that Serraldo mentioned in this interview, to say they don't, and he said this about the only team to do this, but they don't play in a traditional half-6 combo. Their idea is more about having basically 2 6s, 2 people to unlock their edges is more their idea. And I think more of that directive, and this is hence the promotion of Hayward, is coming through the middle and through the 9. Now, you may not like that, but that was their idea. So they weren't so worried about whether he was a 7, more that here is these guys, we just need you to unlock what's going on outside you. So that was their game plan, and it was also their game plan.
Was that
Toby Sexton?
That was was it
But
though?
they chose the wrong halfback.
I don't.
Not the halfback hook.
That definitely wasn't the way that they played. Sexton was their game manager.
He might have been
He
doing
was
some
managed.
kicking and
He was
stuff.
a proper 7
He
in
might
the
have been doing the
first
kicking,
11.
but their idea was that here's how we want the machine to run. You guys are unlocking your edges. That's where everything's happening outside you. Now, we'll say this, when we talk about their defence, and we lauded their defence in the early rounds, I'm still not 100% on board, but I agree there's no easy games, but there are certainly easier games than others. They reached their absolute zenith in that game against the Panthers when they only just lost. Remember, there's an 8-6 game? And that was like them redlining. Now, we talk about them finished defensively first, I think, on the stats here, 17 points. From then on, though, they started to concede points pretty hard. In the last 10 rounds, 22 from the Broncos. They won against the Cowboys, and they did win against the Dragons. Then they went on to win against the Eagles, but coming out the other side, conceded 28 from the Tigers, 32 from the Roosters, 20 from Melbourne. They conceded another 24 from the Sharks, 26 from the Storm, 46 from the Panthers in that semi-final. So the ship started to leak. Lachie Galvin isn't missing those tackles. Now, I don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and we talk about, is there cohesion, is there uncohesion? We don't know. We can speculate, but we don't know. Lachie Galvin wasn't the issue of missing tackles and defensive lapses.
That it was more than just missing tackles and defensive lapses. It was because of it was their organising. It was their offense that they were relying on early. They were in poor positions. It's so much more around this. The errors that they were pushing through in their offense, the penalties they were giving, they were second for penalties conceded in the competition. So it's their defense is there, but when you're constantly giving the ball back and when you're not managing the game properly, and when the ball is in poor position over and over and over again because your halves are not managing that, because off the back of, I think, is one of their biggest faults is their pack, or deficiencies is their pack.
Middle.
Yeah,
Their middle was
there's only so much your defense can do, and their identity for the Bulldogs is defense, 100%.
Their middle was not good this year, and I think a lot of people overlook just how good Sexton was to start the year and managing that team, because he was behind a pretty defeated forward pack for a lot of it. And Max King didn't come out of Origin well at all. He was a shadow of himself, unfortunately. And what that meant was they lost their main key forward, and then their middle, I should say, and they just didn't have much to back up. Hence why they signed Leo Thompson for so much to come in next year, which will help them a lot. Then you also look at the hooker, which I sort of touched on a bit before, but Reid Marnie was head and shoulders above the best hooker at that club throughout the whole year, and I just didn't like the way that was handled, because then we'd see each week we talk about defensive issues and things like that. Bailey Hayward was the top missed tackler almost on a weekly basis by some way, almost weekly, and it just made no sense to me whatsoever to make that call that they did. They didn't need to. Everyone has said it. I've listened to Matty Johns, I've listened to Andrew Johns, I've listened to all of them say he was playing his best football coming off the bench, having that real spark for the Bulldogs, and it was catching so many teams off guard when it happened. There was no need to force that hand to then, they literally, and Gus said it in the media, they were choosing him for the future.
Who, sorry?
Gus. Bailey Hayward.
Hayward, yeah.
To play him at hooker, which, again, so the way I look at it, you have your spine. So Connor Tracy, I don't think's going to be a premiership winning fullback. I think he was very, very solid, very, very good fullback. But then I look at Galvin playing out of position at halfback, and then I look at Bailey Hayward playing out of position. They almost did it to themselves.
I think we'll go back and forth on who's right and who's wrong and what. I think this will have to be one of those ones where the proof will be in the pudding. Because I will still stick and other people will stick in the same camp. I just don't think they were going to win the premiership at all, at any point this year. We will see, though, is the Ciraldo theory right? And we'll probably only see in the next 2 years. And if it is, well, great. You know, what if they win the premiership next year or the year after, no one will care about 2025 anymore, right? But where it all goes from here, that will be the real proof in the pudding.
Yeah, but that's different.
I'm in faith.
That's different to what's happened during the year, because now they've got the off-season. Right? Now they can work on it. Now they can train on it. Now they can play. And Ciraldo there's credit around Ciraldo and how good he is with his halves development. So that's why they like that connection. But the problem is, and the point that we're making is 2025 happened. You have a test, you're on top of the ladder, you have paying members, you have all sorts of things that you do, and then you go and make some of these decisions, and then you beat it. You absolutely continue to keep beating it, and you keep losing, and then you keep beating it, and it didn't get any better. It got worse. Yeah. It actually got worse, and then your statistics that you're talking around their defense is, it got worse. They got worse because they continue to try and keep beating the horse, and it's not going to work, and that was the problem, is that they got stubborn.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still bang that drum. I think that was going to happen anyway. The big kicker in my argument is, then why change it back in the last game? That's the weird one for the last game. Why that one? So I don't know.
Because everyone else was right.
Because they realised it was wrong.
Gus was wrong.
No, I'm not so sure about it. I will tell you one thing, and this is slightly away from the pure football side. From an administrative point of view, the Dogs are in an excellent place.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Aaron Warburton, who's the CEO, is doing a fantastic job there. I know a lot of people don't like the new logo. I don't mind it as much as Wade hates it. But there is a lot of good stuff there. I was chatting with someone the other day about their members, and they were expecting to get a little increase in members. It is blown up huge. So there are good times happening as a club in Belmore. Exciting things happening for next year. Doggies fans are in a good place. Love it.
I agree with that one. I feel like we have been quite negative. It's just been more of a discussion. I think what we need. I think
disappointed.
I think what we needed this was just closure and a big discussion to round out 2025 with the Dogs, because unfortunately, out of all these sides in the top 8, these are the ones with the most question marks. And unfortunately, whether you guys agree, let us know in the comments if they did self-implode or not. You guys can have the final say, and then we can move on from 2025, go into 2026 fresh. Talk to us about one thing I will say to everything that's happened here, just quickly before we go into Player of the Year, that we spoke about the middle, and their forward pack wasn't great in terms of the middle pack, but their edges were, goodness me, probably the best. I'm trying to think quickly. I think of the pairing, their best edge pairing this year.
Sherry and Crichton you're referring to?
No, sorry, their second rowers.
Oh.
Preston
and
Kickout.
yeah.
I think their edge back rowers, the best combination as a whole together.
Josh
were the
Curran
best.
holds his own too. I like Josh
Yeah, he
Curran.
fell away in the back half of the year.
Yeah, no, I got dumped with all the work.
That's
that
what I
was the
mean.
problem. Like when all the injuries happened, he just got it all loaded.
Max King was a shadow, unfortunately, of
Jake
himself.
Preston was an injury away from an Origin
Preston
debut.
was
I mean, he's playing for Australia.
Yeah, 100%.
massive.
Yeah. I'm trying to go through the competition around the edge.
I don't think there's a better.
The
pairing.
only one that, and it doesn't compare as to twos, is because you've got like Katoa and Blore, but that's only because Katoa's so elite that it kind of holds on to Blore. But I still think those two are better than those two as a pairing. I can't think of anyone else. Yeah, I think that is the number one. Just right now.
Thanks, boys. Come on the back of me. It's all good. Player of the Year. Trav, your Player of the Year and your season rating.
Yeah, so that was a really good segue into my Player of the Year as being Jacob Preston.
Thank you.
And so well done. And I've got it as a B. And the reason being is I was so high. Like you mentioned just now around that we were very negative, and I am negative because I was very high on the podcast early and in the previous early around these guys winning the premiership. I thought they would be fighting for it. I thought this year they'd find that offensive power. We knew what they're going to have defensively, and yeah, the way that they ended in imploding themselves, unfortunately, in my opinion, I can't give them an A. I gave them a B.
Retro.
I too had Jacob Preston. Stephen Crichton was almost my man, but Jacob Preston, he was just so impressive. And I also said a B because they've got gears left to go.
Yep, I've jumped on the Jacob Preston train as well. I think he definitely deserves his end of season rep jersey that he, by all reports, will be getting, which is awesome. He'll actually be getting a start, which I'm hearing anyway. And my season rating for the Bulldogs, I'll give him a C. I was actually quite critical of what they've done. And some of those big crucial decisions. I do, and I'll stand by that, that I think they did self-implode, and they didn't do that. I think they go on a big run towards the end of the year and probably play either in a grand final or at least get to the week before. But Bulldogs fans, let us know what you think. Let us know your season rating, and let us know your player of the year. Alrighty, the Melbourne Storm. So they finished second. Unfortunately, lost in the grand final. Points for 671, which was the season ranking at third. Average of just under 28 points per game. Points against 459, which was a season ranking of second. Average of 19 points a game. Their top try scorer, Xavier Coates, on 20. Biggest win was round 10 against the poor old Tigers that day. They wanted to be anywhere but Amy Park, 64 points to 0. And their biggest loss, round 26 against the Roosters, 40 points to 10 at Amy Park. That was the Bellamy game, wasn't it? That was his doing the old Bellamy record game. So that was a crazy game in itself there. So, unfortunately, look, for the Melbourne Storm, just a second year in a row losing the big one, the one that counts that they would have just been all year probably talking about, wanting to just own. Talk to us, Trav, as the fan.
DJ Jazzy Jizzle over here.
Look at
the
his
black cat at the back.
He's got the Storm outfit on.
DJ Jazzy Jizzle. Never heard of that one. Consecutive grand finals losses hurts. Yeah. Losing 2024 hurt, but it was like, okay, Panthers, I got put in the whole, I got caught up in the whole 4 in a row moment, Panthers, and, we got done by the Panthers. That's okay. That kind of hurt. This one hurts because I said this in our grand final review, like, I literally have gone from that 2024 loss and gone for 12 months where I've listened to everyone in the media, I've listened to you, I've listened to podcasts, and had this whole belief that we'll win it. So I've gone for 12 months thinking grand final's ours, right? We're going to win it. So this is killer. It hurts. I'm pretty devastated. Grand finals are hard to make in the first place, and winning them is even harder. And yeah, we got done by a masterclass of one of the best performances ever. And so if we were going to lose, I'm pretty happy to as bad as that sounds, I'm happy to lose to the way we kind of lost and what I got to see from Reece Walsh. But yeah, it hurts. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, you're a fingertip away, a Chewy Kamakamifa fingertip away
yes,
from winning.
absolutely.
Shout out to the Eagleette, Ella Kazmar, who said, it must be nice to be a Melbourne Storm fan to think, are we going to make a grand final or a prelim this year? That's our two options.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
It
nice.
is, and it is. It's nice, but yeah, this hurts.
It was a weird year, I felt, from the Storm, though. They seem to reject some of the old Storm ways of just like grit and grind.
Yep.
And randomly just started chasing points. I was at a game, they played the Cowboys in Melbourne, and they're in front, and they just started throwing the ball around, and the Cowboys like turned around and put like 18 points on them. All of a sudden, the game's back in the balance. Now they came back out and won. It'd be like, this isn't Melbourne.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? And it wasn't a one-off.
Mm.
But it also didn't seem to be like Bellamy sitting there tearing his hair out either. So I don't know. Is this just the Cam Munster era, and that thing is that's what they're doing now? I didn't understand.
I'll touch on that. So one thing that the Storm have been renowned for a long time is that grit and grind, right? But on top of that, it's that grit and grind, and then what do? We blow you away. Like we have that killer mentality. It was that killer mode, right? Once we get in front and we grind you out, that's it. Game's over. Like you can't have the Storm be in front of us. Then we just kill you. We lost that this year. I really do truly believe, and I wrote it here, like we're renowned for that, and we've lost that killer mode, and I don't know what it is.
That's the troubling thing. You can't put a finger on it.
No, I don't think it's that. And Bellamy's definitely been pissed.
Yeah.
The whole he's got no hair to pull out, so it's not that he's still the storming up and down and
We're so
all that
used to
stuff
it.
still
I mean,
happens.
it looks like that when they're winning, right? So this is
Yeah,
hard to
that's
know what the
right.
difference is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think Bellamy's was pissed. Bellamy's definitely been pissed towards the end of the year, and he was shattered. Going like you watched that press conference. That was one of the most shattered I've seen Bellamy.
That comment about what we always
career.
planned for Reece Walsh. He said, well, it didn't work, did it? Yeah, that was them this year, it seemed.
I think there's an I word that sums up this year for the Melbourne Storm, which is very weird to say because for a side that finished second,
That one?
inconsistency.
Oh, sorry.
Inconsistency, however you want to put it, was the Melbourne Storm for what we know. And there's a few ways about that. You've already rightly pointed out sort of the style of play that they were playing, personnel and losing key players regularly throughout the year. The fact that in recent years, or basically since the Storm has entered the competition, they always get up for milestone games where they actually lost a couple this year, not just one. They lost a couple of pretty big milestone games, which is just unheard of for the Melbourne Storm. So there was a lot of inconsistencies, and unfortunately, you pointed out there was just that little Tui moment and things like that, but the inconsistencies sort of hurt them on the bigger stage, unfortunately, this year when it really mattered, and they just... I keep looking back at that grand final game, I just keep thinking to myself, there was parts of throughout the whole season that was in that game.
Yeah.
It was like an 80-minute performance summed up 28 rounds, basically, once you put in finals and everything.
80 minutes summed up in 27 rounds summed up in 40 minutes. At going into half, it was 22-12, I think, wasn't it? We were up by 10. Truly, what did you, without going too much, just one quick sentence, truly, what did you think was
You go on from
what was
here,
happening?
you don't lose a game.
And truly, one sentence, what did you think? Going halftime, 22-12.
Yeah, I still did think the Broncos could do this.
They could, but
Yes, that's I could. Yeah, but and partly because we'd seen it the last couple of weeks, so that did have some impact. But it was the way that Melbourne piled on those points really quick. So Dean Marin I think scored first, and then Melbourne went bang, bang, bang. And I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, right. And that sums up my point, right? I don't want to cut you off there, but that sums up my point because we're going to talk about it again. Inconsistency is a word that continuously got thrown around about the Storm, and I do agree with you, but I'll say some things. Third in points, second for tries scored, fifth for possession percentage, so sixth for completion rate. We were sixth for tackle bust, 12th for line breaks, third for offloads, third for try assists, fifth for meters. We were one of the best defensive teams. We laid the least tackles on average a game. We were third best for missed tackles, fourth best for ineffective tackles. We were fifth best for errors, and we were third worst in the comp for penalties. But statistically, so we're talking about inconsistencies, and I've said this a lot because I do agree with you. We're inconsistent. But don't we put the Storm at such a really big pedestal to make sure that we do say this? Because statistically, we were fantastic, right? Across all minutes and all facets. Like, to have these statistics across the whole year to do this, still finish second. We won 17-7. We came to a whisker of winning a grand final, and we're talking about inconsistency. So we've got this pedestal of where we place the Storm and how we have it, and we have such high expectations of them. That's why we say inconsistent. And to the point is, what I'm saying is that it really was. It was a tale of 27 rounds of we blew teams off the park for 10, 15 minutes and then we dropped, which is what you were saying before. And we did it in the grand final. And it was only one of the best games that we've ever seen that got us beat to little mistakes that happened, like the Tui one.
The weird thing is that when things didn't go Melbourne's way, it seemed to be self-inflicted. So the blips in like what we're labeling inconsistency seem to come from within rather than from without. So, like, yes, Reece Walsh has that game, absolutely, but like it's the Chewy Kamikamifa thing that lets them back in. It's the Ryan Pappenhausen flick that doesn't land.
That was Warbrick's bloody.
It was these little bits that's like kind of like, why are we doing? And go back to that game I watched in Melbourne. Why are we doing this to ourselves? We just don't have to. That's the bit that just was the un-Melbourne-like bit.
And it was also like, you look back at how good Coates was in the air, and throughout the final series, it felt like they just made this big point of doing everything but the obvious. It was like they thought to themselves, this is the easy way out for us. Let's not do it. No, you've got this attacking weapon at your disposal. Do it. You should be doing it over the top. You should be getting to the point where everyone's saying, okay, maybe 10 kicks a game to Coates is too much. Maybe no,
it's not.
Like, that's not. It's just that
not.
part was crazy. But
hey, I'll cut in there. The other dude on the other side that came back is pretty bloody good in the air too, and he never got it either.
Yeah. So both sides of the field, they didn't execute that, which is just, it's so weird for the Melbourne Storm, and it's so funny to have this conversation with a team that finished second and lost a grand final by some Reece Walsh absolute magic that we've never really seen before. But a couple of players that really stood out for me for the Melbourne Storm, Stefano, I've questioned him for a while now. I didn't really see what a lot of people were potentially seeing, or the Storm was seeing at least. He has just built into this season perfectly. He's almost knocking at the door of these elite front rowers, in my opinion. He's getting to that level pretty quickly. And he led just an amazing platform with the help of Josh King as well, who just goes about his work so underratedly well. It's just them two together. I think the Storm have a fantastic platform to play off for years to come. I think Stefano is absolutely huge this year. And from round one to where he finished in the grand final, like, he was loud. He finally said something which we all have just said so far this podcast we love. I felt like he backed it up in a way. Like, he came out and he actually had a pretty good game on the biggest stage of them all. So I think great year for Stefano. Great signing.
I think Stefano just needs a bit of help. I agree, King is very good, but he just needs, you need another Nelson without the errors and stuff. That's what Stefano needs. He needs a bash brother. King is very good, like I say, and he's like a bit of a mix to fix it and whatever. But I just need another goer.
And there is some guys in the wings for that. Pahulu, I hope I said that right. Pahulu, that we got off the Titans, has huge raps, and we've got him for the next couple of years. So look, it's there. We just signed Valepu. And re-signed him, so that's a good one. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I actually think our forward pack is much better without Nas, and that's so weird to say. And I'm such a fan of Nas, but it's just a liability. Now, listening to Ennis on the weekend, was it Ennis commentating the New Zealand game, and watching he said something that really resonated with me, is that I hope we don't lose Nas out of the NRL. Like, I hope he doesn't go to boxing, or I hope he doesn't go to union, or I hope he stays in the NRL somewhere. And I think Perth Bears, I'd love to see him, because I just think he offers so much and he's such an entertaining factor. But for us, as a liability with what we've had, we just can't have it. And having him out for 10 minutes pretty much every time he steps foot on the ground. It just hurt us too much. And that was where that inconsistencies do a lie, is that we had suspensions, we had sin bins and things like that the Storm are just not used to having, because discipline is something that Bellamy instills. And that was where a lot of that inconsistency lies to.
2 years in a row, he missed the most important game of the year.
Yeah.
And that's just culture-wise, unfortunately, I know that's his style of play, but I think it gets to the point where Storm as the club has to just say, you know what, we can't do this.
That's right. And this is that's why he's been let go. But to go back to that, is that Stefano's year is pretty much exactly how we said it would play out, didn't it? Like, he needed to get in that system, and minutes early was less, because obviously we had a full healthy list and that sort of thing. But also there was a structure that he needed to learn to play, a style that he had to play off. He's not playing for the Tigers anymore. He's playing for the Storm. We're fighting for premierships, not wooden spoons. And so there was a whole lot of stuff that he had to learn. And Origin, as much as we all don't think he should have played or got picked for Origin, it was the best bloody thing for him, because he came out of Origin a superstar and he was just unreal. And he almost, dealing with the Hughes injury, Munster, Harry Grant suspension, the injuries on the wings, the combos of all across the board of like Blaw's Larrick's injury, like having to deal with all of that. And the one consistent thing we had was Stefano in the middle, just dominating. And like, even in the grand final, there was points. Now, I don't think Stefano did what I wanted him to do in a grand final, especially when you talk the way that you had to talk, that you talked. I think you needed to walk that talk, and I don't think he did, but I don't think he had a bad game either. But like, he became an enforcer. Like, he wasn't just running and hitting lines. Like, there was a couple of moments where he full blown, like there was one where he palmed off Carrigan and just pushed him out of the way, and then kept getting extra meters while he had Pakes and Hunt on his back, or whoever it was that was on his back as he was carrying meters. Like, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm so excited to see him. And this is why he came to us. He wanted to have these moments.
There was a point this year where I feel like he's realised how big he is.
Yes.
And he's actually starting to play like it. Before we move on, I've left one player out because I think he'll be probably our player of the year, so we'll quickly talk about him then. But one final point on the Storm before we wrap that up is the spine. We haven't even spoken about the spine yet. So I want to ask you, Retro, what your thoughts are about the spine this year and the performance, because I guess they are the Melbourne Storm. So if we talk inconsistency, unfortunately for mine, that probably does come across to the spine, but not necessarily in terms of the way they played this year, because I think a lot of it has to do with injury, which obviously they can't change or they can't impact.
Yeah.
It definitely played a part.
I mean, yeah, so I'd probably agree with Travis. I don't know if I'd use the words inconsistency. I'd just say it was just an odd style change that resulted in that. But Hughes spent so much time on the sideline, poor bloke, and playing the games with the broken arm and all that kind of stuff. I still thought Harry Grant was very good, but also spent time on the sideline, and Pappy doing his thing out the back. And what's going to happen to him, I don't know. I mean, the Storm are still too good to just say, oh, well, that's them done now. They lost 2 grand finals. Still just going to be there again next year.
The same list for next year.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's also this weird story that's come up lately about Bellamy and the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about that. Like,
this could be his last year, 2026.
Yeah,
so
it's an odd one.
It's seeming more and more likely, but we have heard that a few times over the last few years. One final one for you, Trav, before we move on, just a Pappy sort of thing, because I've spoken to a few Melbourne Storm fans now. You've seen the same sort of thing where it feels like this thing that the script is starting to be flipped a little bit on Pappy, and his season might not have been as good as what people may have thought. Melbourne Storm fans are looking a bit more into that, and
I think we forget how good he was in the first half of the year. Like, he was pretty good in the first half of the year, and then that injury around Origin time didn't help, and then I think there was a concussion injury that he had and stuff like that. And the second half of the year, yeah, he definitely wasn't very good. But he also had moments like, if Warbrick doesn't drop that pass that was fully set up for him, like Warbrick ran, like he knew where Pappy was running to the corner to draw the guy over. Warbrick was running on the left. He knew where it was. All he had to do was take that, and he was in the goal line. Like, we talk about Pappy a little bit differently because we have a moment there. Like, it's he still had moments, but again, we hold Pappy to very high standards because we know how good he is, and we know and we love him. There's nothing we don't like about Pappy. You know, the mullet running through, and the blonde mullet running through, and the way he goes about things and how he talks. He's just such a respectful dude. So we do hold him to very high standards. Do I want to lose Pappy? No, I don't. But if we do, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I think we're going to replace him with a guy that I do like as well. So I would like to keep Pappy, but I'm okay with it.
He's the one you can probably handle and deal with the most.
We can definitely afford to lose.
Sua is just waiting to have a full season, I think, at fullback. I can't wait for it. Player of the year, for me, I've gone Eli Katoa. I think he was absolutely amazing this year. He was just, for mine, an absolutely elite edge back rower. There's no denying that. He's got everything in his game. He just continues to get better and better as well, which is scary. So I think his season was absolutely phenomenal. He almost became that guy where, in a way, we speak about they should have used Coasting more, but it almost felt like there was a few times throughout the season where they needed a big play to happen. And who did they go to? Katoa, which just says so much for mine. My season rating for the Melbourne Storm, just in terms of, I think for the Melbourne Storm losing last year, they really would have emphasised winning it this year. Unfortunately, they didn't, so I've got them down as a B just for the Storm that we all know and what they sort of hold themselves to. I think the only way they get an A normally is if they win the comp. I'll go Retro first.
Yeah, I thought also with a B, not because like, they have to win the comp. I just felt like they just had a bit more in them that they just didn't release. And my player of the year was Harry Grant. I think like he was the man steering the ship from 9 there. I'm just a Grant fan. I don't know about this talk about people saying like, oh, he's better than Cameron Smith. Jeez, people love to just like go to the nth degree so quick. But I think he is very important to that side.
Oh yeah, I agree. Eli Katoa for me, the no-brainer, is the best player. I thought he had a fantastic year and he was consistently good, which is one of the things that I challenged Katoa before going into this year was consistently be good. Don't have that 30 minutes where you just dominate a game. Have 60, 70 minutes where you're very good for the whole game. And so he did that this year. Yeah. So I've got that. And God, I think you're harsh. Like you finished second, literally on the season on the ladder, and you finished second on the grand final. Really the reason why you lost is because of a once in a lifetime moment, performance. I think that's harsh. I think it's still an A.
Let us know in the comments, Storm fans. Do you think it's an A or a B? I think that's probably the lowest you can go is B. I think anyone going lower than that, just out of pure Storm hatred. And let us know your player of the year as well. The Canberra Raiders, so they finished minor premiers, points for 654, which was a season ranking of 4th, average of 27 points per game. Points against was 506 with a season ranking of 6th. Average was about 21 points a game there. Top try scorer, Ethan Strange with 14. Biggest win was round 6 against the Eels, 50 points to 12 at Darwin. And their biggest loss was round 27 against the Dolphins, 62 points to 24 at KO Stadium. It's where we're going to start here, boys, because I want to ask the question straight off the bat, and hindsight is a wonderful thing here. Did the Raiders, Ricky Stewart in particular, get this wrong by their mass restings heading into that last round game? I'll go off this by saying they had a bye 2 weeks prior to that. They also had 3 byes inside 10 weeks coming into that. So I don't know if it was a story of their squad was tired, but Retro, talk to us. Did they get it wrong?
No, if anything, they could have rested more players. I think it's
rest.
Corey Horsburgh played in that game. Like, I just think it's irrelevant, really, because like anyone who lost that game basically wasn't there the next week. So, no, it's just really a blip in nothing. I don't think it really matters.
I can't. No, they didn't get it wrong. I don't think they needed to do it though. They didn't need to rest anybody. They had all those byes. That was one thing that was their advantage. They had first place locked up. They had home games, like at least one home game. Or 2, sorry. They were always going to have 2 home games, weren't they? So, yeah. I don't think they needed to rest, but it's definitely not the point that you're trying to make of did it implode their season or stuff their season up. I don't think they can put that onto that.
It's just pure risk and reward. Like, we've got nothing to gain, only things to lose. Stuntle.
What it did mean is they got added to the list.
The fictitious
list.
It's not though. It's true. The curse
it happened,
is real.
and that's where for mine they did get it wrong because it was just the performance they put in and what it led to, and whether the players didn't play or not. The end of the day, they didn't win the comp. They got bundled out in straight sets.
No.
So let's go to the Broncos.
This is correlation, not causation. This is such a.
I'm just saying,
have to go.
you've got to
So
go
myth.
differently and make it entertaining. So
No. I don't even think you need to go differently. The curse is real, and it's legit. But that game against Broncos, did they play bad?
no,
No.
they were a
Did
penalty
they win
away
the game?
from-
Did they somewhat win the game 3 times? Yep.
Yes.
Unfortunately, calls went a different way, and unfortunately, that's just how it happened. And also, Reece Walsh happened to them, and so therefore, they got Walshed. And
It happened a lot.
and they're not the only team that got Walshed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not going to buy into that resting as being that, but yeah, the curse is real. I am going to buy that.
The curse is real. I feel bad though that the season ended the way it did for the Raiders. I don't think they deserved it. It was a remarkable season where, however you look at it, this was a team tipped by many. I think they started with the betting agencies as wooden spoon favourites coming into this
They
year.
were.
To then produce to be minor premiers, which just meant that you have to be consistent throughout the year to win that. There's no way to go against that. They were just consistent all across the park. Players stepped up on a week-to-week basis all across the park. Ricky was loving the emotion he was showing on the sideline, and that obviously oozed out onto his players as well, who were playing just with. You could not ever doubt the pride that the Raiders had on a week-to-week basis. They just rocked up every week, whoever it was against, and got it done.
Can I put a question to you
Go
on
ahead.
that? Because you just mentioned his name. Is this the greatest coaching season ever?
By Ricky. I think it's his best coaching.
It's I'm actually going to put it out there as saying that this is the greatest, if not the one of the greatest coaching seasons ever
Oh, as in you just think coaches
in
as a
general.
whole. Ooh. I was going just on
Because
Ricky's yes.
The point, this is definitely Ricky's, but I think this is going to go very close to one of the.
2005 Tigers.
But did they predict them to be on the bottom of the ladder?
Oh well, no, but they
No.
didn't pick them to win it.
No, yes, but they didn't like.
I didn't have the Raiders at the bottom of the ladder.
No, neither did we.
No.
But the bookies did, and we have to go by that. The bookies literally had them by a long way on the bottom of the ladder. Like I had them at 12th, and Joe, you had them at 10th. So we did have them in the back end.
I'll win again.
But yeah, I'm going to categorically say that this is the best, if not one of the best coaching performances ever, because it's not just what they've done, it's the way, the style they went about it. The forward pack, just like he has made a career resurgence to the point where he forced them to re-sign them.
Go again.
So he's got, like, he's doing that. Horsburgh's come out of nowhere and put himself into origin position. Weeks was a superstar in the making. Their edges, just holy moly. Like, Hudson Young went a whole nother level. Then you've got all the works of Nicholson, Smithies, and these guys coming out of, which we know has talent, but doing what they're doing. It's not just the results and the fact that it's the way they went about it. It's the way that the players improved. It's what they've done. Like, and statistically across the board, actually all attacking stats, the worst rank was 8th, and that was for possession percentage. They were 8th. Everything else, they're in top 8. So 4th for points, 4th for tries, 5th for goals, 8th for possession, 5th for completion percentage, 5th for line breaks, 3rd for tackle bars, 2nd for offloads, 8th for run meters, 5th for try assists. Like, statistically, they were fantastic. This has to go down as one of the best, if not the best, coaching performances.
The only top 5 side that they didn't beat this year was the Bulldogs. They played them once and lost. That was that Anzac Day game. So they
That was where they
winning. They
They
should have
were.
closed it out, and then Stephen Crichton happened.
Yep.
But like that shows you, right? It's not like a fluke that they just somehow magic their way to the top. They had gritty wins, they had big wins, they did it all.
Yep.
But here's the big plus side for Raiders fans: young squad,
Yep.
fast squad, playing right into how the NRL is being run at the moment. Good times ahead for Raiders fans.
absolutely. Thanks
Caught
for
off guard.
thanks for just going in there, co-host, and getting something done. the forward pack was what kept me from saying that this team would be a wooden spoon team this year. I remember we spoke about it, Trav, at the start of the year, and we just said this forward pack will not allow them to lose as many games as you need to lose to win the wooden spoon.
Yeah.
We always talk how important forward packs are in this game, even though, it's a fast game, it's getting faster and faster, but you still need a very good forward pack, which they just have, and they have tremendous depth all throughout. And that's what got them through a lot of the year, because they lost like Hosking for a moment of time. Like you said, upstep Nicholson. They lost middles. They lost the bench and things like that. Upstepped players countlessly. Like their pack, and I've said it throughout the year and I'll say it again, I think it's the best all-rounded pack in the competition. Retro, I don't know if you agree with that one, but I've got them right up there, and I just think while they've still got that there, they will still continue to be a threat in this competition.
Well, Tarpany is like, if you're not level pegging with Payne Haas, maybe even a fraction above as the premier front rower. So, I mean, there is that. The reason I didn't think Raiders would finish last is purely because of Ricky Stewart. I just did not think he would let it happen.
Yeah.
He's just too tough, too gritty. Actually, I had St. George coming last was my prediction there. So like there's just so much to like about where the Raiders are headed, particularly like when no one thought it was happening and now they're just on this trajectory. We have seen it before, though. 2019 was looking really good for the Raiders, and then they fell off a cliff. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
They've done that a lot, going up and down the roller coasters throughout the years. We have seen that. I feel like, Trav, I want to talk about the halves quickly. I just want to say, feels like a story of two halves in a way, in terms of Ethan Strange, absolutely amazing year. He has established himself fully as a premium 5/8 in the game. Absolutely remarkable year. But what I am a huge Jamal Fogarty fan. I want to just let that out there. I think he's right up there in the game with halves and was fantastic this year. However,
you're doing it. Recency bias.
However,
is happening to a T just here.
But it's not. It's facts. It's when it mattered the most. Unfortunately, he struggled. He disappeared in a way. Like he just didn't come up with the moments you need to make when you want to be and are considered one of the premium halfbacks in this game.
Yeah, but I'm not disappointed, and the reason why is because we called for this. We knew he was inexperienced going into this, and you have to. And for a guy like him as a halfback that leads a team around up around the park, especially one that's as young as that, and really their age, the average age is blown out of proportion because they've got a gun old guy in Papali, and Tarpany's not young either. But we said this. This was how we previewed them going into the finals, is that this was probably going to be a problem. And there was some signs going into it that, like the Penrith game and that, that he had. I wish he was staying at the Raiders because it would be a very different story. I think now they've lost. Now he's had those moments. He's gone into that. He hasn't had that before in any of his career where he's been in these big, big games. So, yeah, I truly just think this is a bit of recency bias around him because, he wasn't great. He still did okay, but, he wasn't the halfback that the Raiders needed to lead them through the finals.
Can I ask you boys a question? If the Raiders have Moses, Hughes, or Cleary this year, do they win the competition?
I
mean, they
Cleary,
still,
yes. Not sure about the other two because we just know what Cleary can. Yeah, I think they do. Yeah.
Yes, they do. But I mean, I don't want to downplay that they got Walshed. And how good he was.
Cleary got Walshed.
Cleary got Walshed, and so did the Storm. Yeah. So, I don't want to downplay that. That's a really big hypothetical question that I love. It's a really good question to put to the community.
Do you think Cleary lets that a 16-point lead, or was it
no
distance? I don't think he lets that go.
Although he hit for his own team.
Yeah, but I think he ices that game against Cronulla.
Yeah, crazy to think that Broncos game, they were a Zach Hosking unfortunate penalty away from sailing through. It was a penalty, but sailing through to week 3, had the week off, get to go again.
But there was 3 moments. Like it wasn't just that penalty. There was 3 moments.
They put themselves in that frame that had to be the moment. They didn't have to do that beforehand.
Yeah.
Player of the year.
Season.
You got another one?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. So starting the season as they went into this year. Sorry to hijack this, but as they went into this year, can you name me a superstar on that team?
Before the year, Tarpany.
Well, even apart from them. I actually thought Xavier Savage, and I know he didn't play much at the end of the year, but I thought he's one of those freaky outsiders. KO Weeks
To
was
start the year,
Yeah.
are you going to name him a superstar?
Well, it depends what you mean by superstar. Like, you're talking about like top tier $1 million players.
I'm talking like when you looked
Do you
at
mean
that
X
roster
Factor?
going into this year, did they have stars? Like were
Top 3 in their position.
yeah, top 5
Oh.
even.
Yeah, I suppose.
Tarpany's the only one.
Yeah, if you put it like
Right.
that, probably yeah.
Hudson Young as well.
Oh yeah, that's
before.
probably. I'd put him as a premier.
He's been.
As
Liz
top
Or-
3, I
Well,
probably
it's
would have
Origin.
Young.
He's Origin second rower, so that doesn't mean nothing.
I would have.
Yeah, but he wasn't coming. He was coming off the bench, like he wasn't playing much. Oh, you wouldn't have Hudson Young top 3 in that position.
I still get what
you
you're
would have
saying.
done.
Well, but
But
that's
you
not-
understand what I'm trying to say?
Underrated
Okay,
squad.
now
Sure,
come to the end of the year. Name your stars.
KO Weeks.
KO Weeks, Ethan
Strange.
Strange, Xavier Savage, Timoko, Chris, Tamale, Horsburgh turned into one.
Tom Starling was good.
Starling
was good.
is top. You're like,
But
holy-
Barley got a new lease on life to come back into the
what a year.
top
I-
6 or
I
so
wanted-
props in the game.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that question
Yeah.
because what a freaking year. What an absolute freaking year. And I just think that really is underrated. And I'm not going to buy in, and I'll get really pissed off because there's a story at the moment with the Raiders about them being chokers. And I just think that's completely and utterly freaking garbage. And
It's an experience.
it's
So
a team has to lose to win.
Yeah.
Penrith has to lose to the Storm to win. They don't win 4 in a row. I think they don't win 4 in a row if they win that game again. Or like if they you've got to lose to win. That is not. I'm so passionate about this storyline that is being made about the Raiders about being chokers. This is not a choking performance. They got washed, and then look, they just got overawed against the Sharks. They finished on top of the ladder. They've unearthed a team full of stars and potentially superstars. Like Ethan Strange is a potential superstar. Young is a potential superstar. Like it's just, I really wanted to ask that question because I just think to me I'm passionate about this about the Raiders, and I think this was a really successful year.
Yeah, I think that's those like classic numpty, unthought through storylines, right?
But it's
Like,
not even though like there's so many people talking about it. It's not just the media.
I haven't heard
the It's
I haven't heard. But I mean, it's one of those ones as well where you go, like when you think choke, you think like you've got it all there, it's all made for you, and all of a sudden you start losing uncontrollably, you just can't stop it. That never really happened to the Raiders. The only time that happened to the Raiders this year was that game against the Bulldogs, where they just like everything just fell apart and they couldn't seem to stop it. But that was really it, and that happens from time to time. Happened to the Bulldogs themselves. Like, I think that's a silly narrative to play out that
I
they're
agree.
chokers. Yeah.
do you have any other questions for us?
No, sorry.
Where did
That's
babies
right.
come from?
No, I do apologize,
I've got
but
a
I wanted to get it out there.
Question for you then. Your player of the year and season rating.
Captain Tarpany. Gosh, he was an immense in a hard season to pick it, in a hard team to pick it, a player of the year, but giving him the captain just gave him a whole nother lease of life in the way he played Tarpany for sure. And I've given him a very easy A.
Yep, totally agree with that. And just one other thing, I'm thinking of like moments for the Raiders as well. One other big moment, and we never saw this happen again throughout the finals, was Hudson Young getting sent off for talking.
Yeah.
And then from then on out, you could do whatever you want and not get sent off the field. So,
Yeah. Let's not get into inconsistencies. 'Cause
Yeah.
Holy crap.
but I agree. Tarpany, A.
Do not wind me up about that Hudson Young.
Oh.
That was the most pathetic
Yep.
decision
Yep.
I've
Yep.
seen on a rugby league field. Absolutely pathetic. For me, I've gone Ethan Strange as my player of the year. I just thought he was absolutely sensational. The age, I think so many people forget. I had him at the start of the year. I thought he's still probably better as a centre and really having that running game. But he's done so much this year to suggest that, hang on, I could be a premium 5'8", and in the next 5 to 6, 7 years, not just an Origin. It's going to be tough for him. There's some very good players that are still in a decent age bracket, but we could be talking about him right up there with some of the best to do it. And I've got him an A as well. So Raiders fans, let us know who your player of the year was, as well as your season rating, which I think there'll be a lot of A's out there.
Get around them.
The Brisbane Broncos, they are your premiers for 2025. Points for was 680, which was a season ranking of second. Average was about 28 points per game. Points against 508, which was a season ranking of seventh. Average of 21 points per game. Top try scorer, Gemmet Shibasaki with 18. Biggest win, round 22 versus South Sydney Rabbitohs, 60 points to 14 at Suncorp Stadium. Their biggest loss, round 13 against Manly, 34 points to 6 at Four Pines. Wowee, boys. First thing is, let's just talk about timing. This has just been a Madge masterclass, really, in timing. And in a way, he was kind of forced, or his hand was forced into this because I don't want to bag him, but without Mam and Reynolds, it forced the hand of, let's just get him out there and start talking about him, Reece Walsh. And he just went to another level.
We're talking about the grand final now at this point. Is that what you're saying?
The whole
okay.
back half of the season.
Yep.
The injuries to both key halves, we just noticed. I was worried originally when this happened because I thought, it means Walsh. And then straight after seeing his first game, I thought, how good is this going to be for him? And it just was. Retro, the Broncos, the season, the timing, the Walsh.
Yeah. Just going back a step. So, we were just talking just then. Before the season started, I said, I think the Brisbane Broncos will win it this year. And I said that based off two things. One, Ben Hunt coming to the club, I thought he was the missing piece of the puzzle. And the other bit I thought is that if they buy into what Michael Maguire offers, they'll win a premiership within 2 seasons, is what I thought. People don't know, or some people may not realise, how much they were actually at the cliff's edge part way through the season, how dire things were internally within the club.
Yep.
And I'm not just talking from a player perspective. I mean, the whole club, top to bottom, was on a cliff's edge. And all flipped in that game where they wore the black jersey. That's when the ship turned around. But that was also around the time, so you got Buzz, hammering them. There's this talk about the army camps and the vomit buckets and whatever, which someone is saying something. Someone is saying something to someone to get that story out there. Then you have Maguire brings in this crisis manager. But it wasn't so much, I think, Maguire bringing in this crisis manager to manage himself. There was a little bit of that. It was how do we get everyone on the same page here? And it worked. From that black jersey moment on, they started to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The Ben Hunt effect and the Billy Walters effect cannot be underestimated in the run to get them where they did. So yes, Reece Walsh shot now the cannon at the finish. Who thought we'd be talking about when Billy Walters went down, everyone went, what are they going to do now? We've never thought that in our lives about Billy Walters. And yet here they were. So this was a club that had to hit rock bottom to really get and understand and totally buy in to slingshot themselves out the other side. I think that's the hidden part of this story, is that the tragedy had to come before the comedy to make it work.
You've smashed the nail on the head with your gigantic hammer. Madge was the person that the Broncos needed, and everyone could see that. I just find it so funny that story even generated itself with the army camp and training hard. You look at someone like the Melbourne Storm, who were just renowned for how hard they train and how hard their off seasons are, and look how successful they've been. So the recipe for having a good year and a great season and being a great club is making sure that preseason is done right. And now we can look back on it and say the Broncos absolutely nailed it. You need to spew something. I remember doing some training session myself and I ended up spewing it in it, and I thought to myself afterwards, what a good session. You need to do that sometimes. It's what it takes.
Yeah, but it didn't fit with the way that everyone has personaed or cliched even the Broncos, right? Tinseltown.
Yeah.
Princesses, right? And this is why it's become a story. But we all said this is what the Broncos needed. They needed Madge to come in and put the hammer down and say, pull your freaking heads in. This is not, put your shirts on. We're not allowing that rubbish. It's not Tinseltown. Yeah, it's Bris Vegas, blah, 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 blah. we're here to play NRL. This is what's happening. And that style came out and it bloody well worked. And they ran teams down. The point that you're saying about timing, though, which I'm not sure, well, I don't know, Retro, you may not have got, but they when Reynolds went down and Mann went down, and to be fair, they went down in the matter of 30 metres.
That's crazy. Looking back on that play, that is crazy.
That moment was where the Walsh effect came in, and that's the timing of it, right? Is that we all know Walsh is a gun. We all knew that he's got superstar potential in him. We just needed to see it consistently, and we saw it. And that the timing of that was the moment that we got to see. And that's the point you're trying to make, is that Walsh pushed himself into superstardom from that moment. When Reynolds came back, the conversation was, how is that going to limit Walsh? And it did. It literally did. And they scraped away with that game and got that win. And then in the first half, that Reynolds moment was kind of impacting Walsh. And Walsh was playing pretty well, but he didn't have that superstardom moments that he was having. Reynolds goes down, and I turned to my wife and I said, uh-oh, this is not good. And I literally said that to my wife, and off he went. And this is now the grand final, and Walsh broke out. So the timing of everything has helped. I actually think I loved what Walters did. Walters did as a 5'8", exactly what he had to do, and that allowed Walsh to be able to do it. And then Walsh's run also helped Walters, and I think they worked really well. And Ben Hunt's kind of level-headed moment. It wasn't super. He wasn't playing like great, but he was just doing what he had to do to manage and be a good manager. But the Billy Walters injury kind of came at an optimal time for them, because then it allowed things to shift back as all these other injuries came back. So this timing moment is really good, because it then put Hunt back to where he needed to get to, gets Mann back into where he needed to get to. You know, there's that timing notion. Until today, I hadn't actually thought about it like what you're saying here. And there's so many pieces. Like timing, again, Carrigan getting suspended was perfect, because it like gave him a rest. And have a look at what he got to do, like in that grand final. Like, it's just, yeah, the time. I love that notion. Well done.
And for all the hard edge that we talk about with Michael Maguire bringing, don't forget it was Michael Maguire who took them on the Harbour Cruise. Yeah, so he also has a notion where he knows how to unwind a bit at times. And it was Michael Maguire who said to Reece Walsh, when you're here at Clubland, you focus, you do your work. When you go home, you're with your daughters. And that seemed to like set him free a little bit too. In that grand final, I thought, like, isn't someone saying in the grand final that like Ben Hunt was awful? I don't know what game they were watching. I didn't think Ben Hunt was, not only was he not awful, he was like keeping them in the game with his kicking in the second half until he copped the knee on the head. And then from there, then the game fell on top of Walsh and he stood up and took the moment. That was great to see. Yeah, I just thought, like, this is one of those years. It's not like a Panthers year or a Melbourne year that's like calculated and built and mathematically put together. It's just like, let's train our guts out and then just go with it, and it just worked for them.
Come to round 13. What was the game that they wore the black jersey?
I think it was round 15.
Was it 15?
Against the Titans. Round 14, sorry.
Round 14 was against the Titans, where because the game before that they got belted by the Sea Eagles, right? Then they went on a 13 game out of 15.
Yep.
So they won the next 13 out of 15.
And they dropped that one against the Eels, which they almost won.
That's right, yeah. What an incredible finish to the year.
Yeah, some teams can beat the premiers, so it's all good. The finals run, I just want to emphasise the finals run that the Broncos had, because they damn well deserved it.
Did it the hard way.
They have done it the hardest way possible. They minor premiers first week in Canberra, got it done. We know the story there. We're not going to go back into it. They then got the week off. The week after that, I was at the game. Absolutely fantastic scenes to be at. Beat the 4-time defending premiers in the Penrith Panthers, who were just getting better and better as the weeks went on. Absolutely fantastic. And then they versed the 2025 favourites by many, and the bookies included, and beat them. The hardest finals run, I reckon, I can remember. They versed all these teams that were all in some form, all peak of their performance in a way for the year, and they got it done every single time.
To be fair, They did make it a little hard on themselves, though. So, yes, they overcame these deficits. They did let in the deficits first. So, yes, it was great. It was highly entertaining. I don't think they'd be so in love with the fact that they kept being behind at halftime. You could probably fix that up. I don't know if that's an essential part of your nature. And that'll come back around in a second. But for the viewers, great to watch.
Oh, it fits the narrative perfectly, but like the army camp, the spew buckets, like you said, like that we've trained for this to come back and make these comebacks.
They're
So it fits
incredibly
that perfect.
team.
Yeah,
but I
it
don't think
fits that
I don't
narrative.
think they'd be in love with having to.
I don't think they have. They will either, but they trained for these moments, right? So it was, like I get what you're saying. Absolutely, you don't want to be in the moment like that, but it fits that narrative that this is why we trained. We did this, and Walsh even said it. Like I really like what Walsh said in his post game conference, a press conference, when he said, "Who cares what happened? Look." I've got a medal. I've won a grand final, so who cares? So yeah,
And that's why that's actually a good point, because I think that's why the seeming demise of Brisbane in the opening whatever rounds did them a world of good. Had they just had a bit of win and a bit of loss, I think it would have papered over the cracks, and all the soul searching would have been lost for a future year. Hitting rock bottom made them go, we have to change, we have to buy in, and then it springboarded out from there. Without that, you don't get premiership, I don't think.
And I want to give credit to the playing group, because we're giving credit, rightly so, to Michael Maguire, but we also need to give these guys some credit, because this almost exactly the same squad achieved nothing last year. They were all basically up themselves. We could all see that. They thought they're, what didn't stink type thing, and they've come in and they've put their egos to the side very clearly. They've gotten involved with some very hard training and what was needed. By all reports, apparently, what I heard in a recent podcast, I forget which one it was, but I think it was Payne Haas and Carrigan actually sat down with Maguire early-ish on in the season and said, can you keep training us harder than you are? And we really want you to push us, get what you want out of us, and get us to the level we need to get to. And it's all worked, and it's a credit, because that playing group could have easily stuck their nose up at this and got probably kicked stones, had a bad year, finished 15th or something. And by how the media were going with Madge midway through, probably got him sacked.
How come it didn't work at the Tigers?
Didn't have as
What?
good a list.
That may be a facetious question.
Didn't have as good a list, and their management is just a little bit different.
I don't know if the Tigers are to be trained harder any more times either.
I think this is a really good case. Like, I get what you're saying about the players, but I do have to go back to Madge in terms of decisions made and what he's done. The players have to do it, yes. But he's definitely brought so many lives back from the dead, right? So, like Jesse Arthur's, his start to the year was incredible. Mariner's done so well. Staggs has pushed himself into an elite centre. Shibasaki, back from the dead. He was literally nowhere. Like, I loved listening to Link and what he said at the Knights about him. And so there's that. Then you got the gods, Hetherington, Willison, like all of these guys have come. Like, Willison's obviously someone that they've rated really highly, but they've come out from the dead and offered so much to them.
And the flip side is those who missed out, Selwyn Cobbo and the like.
Yeah.
So that's tough. There was times where he was sitting in reserve grade and they were still picking other people.
Yep.
So, and he did that with New South Wales and whatever as well. He's had a history of going, I don't care what the name says, it's the effort I want. But you're 100% right. No matter what Maguire says, if the players don't buy in, you're West.
It doesn't matter. Yep.
And people go on about Cleary and his picking Alamotti into the finals, which was a massive call. But the Broncos with Madge, similar things with their wingers. They could have easily resorted back to, like you said, the guy who had pretty decent form in the build-up to majority of the year. But he went youth. He went these exciting youngsters who, in the end, you could argue, like, they worked so hard in that grand final day and through that final series that yet Walsh and Haas and all these are getting the right credit that they deserve. But these wingers that they've now got, Karapani, Mariner,
Karapani, who came out of nowhere, for a while, it's like, who's that guy? And also, like, the fact that Maguire at time made decisions based on principle over winning. When he dropped Shibasaki because he had the crazy night out, there's been a lot of times where coaches haven't done that, or boards or whatever have said, do not do that because winning is more important. But Maguire knew principle is more important. Culture is more important. You will sit out, but you can try it. You came back. you're in the squad.
Yeah, but I also want to give credit around Maguire's game style and what he wanted to do. It wasn't just all about fitness. It was he knew what his team was. He knew it was all based off his pack. He knew that I've got Haas, I've got Carrigan, I've got Willison, I've got these big boppers, and that's why they led that first in the comp for line breaks, first in the comp for tackle bust, first in the comp for offloads. So and then run meters that they were in the top echelon. So it's that game style. I'm going to play through Haas. I'm just going to get the ball through Haas, through Carrigan, through these big guys, through Ricky even was pretty good on the edge and towards the back end of the year. Piakura came up pretty well in the back end of the year too. I really like that game style of playing through your team and through your big guys. And the freedom that Haas played with this year. We know that he's a premier forward, but my God, he just played with so much freedom. He was a tank. He was a beast. He just went through teams and then wanted to offload. And that second and phase play that he created was just so good for Reece Walsh.
And Maguire was willing to adapt as well, because don't forget at the start of the year, Carrigan was playing in the front row with Haas and then went, they're maybe not doing what I want it to do. That's right. You go to the side. Let's get the result.
I am continually in awe of Payne Haas. And we all know the story now. We all know his personal life, what he's going through on a daily basis, what he's taken on board, everything. That is just incredible. What he does on a football field as well. So, I want to declare now, and I want to know if you guys agree or not. I think he is the best prop forward we've ever seen.
Not yet.
I just don't. I struggle with any of these things that say, is this the best? Is that the best? I feel like you got to let a weight of time go past.
Yeah.
So I just can't enter into that conversation.
You mean as in once the career finishes and then a weight of time, or?
I don't know. I just feel like every grand final that's over, the first thing that everyone says is, was that the greatest grand final we've ever watched? I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch the other 100. I'm just not prepared to stack that up against all the others. But he's certainly a great. I just struggle with any of those best ever.
I haven't got him as yet. But I just think from what we saw this year and what he's done in the past, I think his trajectory is going to get there, or he's trajecting in that way. But I want to wait and see. I'm a little bit like you, but not so heavy. I do at the moment I've got Cleary in that conversation and stuff like that. I'm okay with that, but yeah, just not quite just yet.
I think we over criticize modern day players at times with this though, because I look back on, and I'm talking about your Webkes, your Petros, your Lazaruses. I'm throwing them all in. I have not seen any of them do what Payne Haas does on a week-to-week basis, and it's everything: tackle count, hit-ups, offloads, 80-minute performances. You name it, he does it.
It's hard to know though. It's just such a different game from Lazarus's period or Beatson's period or whatever. So it's just for me personally, I just struggle with those. Yep. Every best ever isn't the best. I struggle with that thinking.
One more individual I want to talk about, Reece Walsh. This for mine, when you put it all into context, the fact that we've seen runs like this in the past, yet they didn't quite achieve the ultimate glory, which was the grand final. The Broncos this time off the bat, I don't know, we've credited so many players, and rightly so, but let's call a spade a spade. Without Reece Walsh, the Broncos don't win the premiership.
Yep.
And he was this was the best patch of form by an individual I've ever seen. I know Hayne, and I'm a Apparel fan, was absolutely magnificent 09. Barbers was similar. We've seen Turbo as well for Manly, but what this guy was doing on a week-to-week basis and what he achieved, absolutely sensational.
Yeah, I'm in awe. I said today in the previous podcast around teams that have just got Walshed. I think that's a saying. Let's put that out there and make it a thing. You've just been Walshed.
You done got Walshed.
Yeah. Because that's the only way I can sum up how magical it was. And you live and die by the sword. They lived and died by his sword. And for the mistakes and the forward passes that he did, it was 10 times fixed with everything else that he put out there. It was just a sensational run. And unfortunately, he did it against my Storm.
I've said what I've said about is it the best ever or whatever, but it was certainly a complete performance, and it was a tough performance. There was times where he did some freaky defensive things and hard things. and he stopped Chui Kamikamifa's try. It's all effort, so stuff like that where maybe in the past he hasn't gone all the way. He went all the way that game.
Talk to us, Retro, your player of the year and your season rating for the Broncos.
Well, I feel we've glazed him heavily enough, but there's one more. His player of the year is Reece Walsh. My rating is a B. And the reason it is a B, it's a scary reason, because I think they've got more gears.
Oh, my God.
It's based purely off, have they got more in them?
Oh, man, I love you, Retro, but...
Yep.
You've just won the premiership and you give them a B? You don't give...
because they've got more levels.
Oh my
they
God.
can go more. So we're saying, like that, you have to come back from these games. You have to have these magnificent games because you've got them rated here defensively, points against 7th. They're conceding 21 points, but they don't have to. And they may not again in the future. So it's a scary reason that I give them a B, because their ceiling is so high.
Wowee.
Trav.
Look, I've got this one. I can't argue with Walsh because of what Walsh did at the end. And to be fair, and as we very, very clearly said, if without Walsh, they don't win. So I'm okay with Walsh because of what he did and how exceptional he was. But he didn't do it all year. It was just an exceptional part to the last third of the year, and they won a grand final. But someone that did something all year was Payne Haas. So I can't just I can't knock what he had done. So I've got Payne Haas there, and I don't know anyone that can't give an A to a team that won the grand final.
There's one.
And it's not like they fluked it, not every team was injured and they just got an easy run through. Like they did it a freaking hard way. So, yep.
We've done about 7 hours of season review podcast now. That could be the biggest call of the whole thing. It may not seem much to you, but I think that could be, in the comments and everything, that could be the one that triggers the most people.
But I think if Broncos fans truly listen to that will get them excited.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's the potential for them to go astronomical that I think is right there in front of them.
My player of the year, Payne Haas. I agree with what Trav was saying. The fact that all year round he was I just can't get over, and he's still doing it for Samoa at the moment. We're recording this obviously after the first week where he was so good in the unfortunate losing team for Samoa against New Zealand, but Payne Haas has just been absolutely phenomenal. And for me, his season rating was an A. I've given him an A as well. So grand finals, I think I've got to go an A. I want to say a huge thank you, first of all, to our major sponsor for hosting this. As I just said, it's been like 7 hours of podcasting. There was a hiccup in there as well, so it's probably about 13 hours, but we won't go there. We've said it. We've been there before, but thank you very much for, first of all, hosting us, but this continued support that you give to us. If you're around the Brisbane area, whenever it is, we're here on a Tuesday night at the moment recording this. They're open. You can come get a drink, get a feed, whatever it is. Obviously, footy day. Make sure you come stop by. Thank you very, very, very much.
Come here on Sunday.
Yes. Samoa vs Tonga.
We will be here. We'll put a post out or something. We'll come and catch up, have a chat. So talk some footy and whatever else you want to talk about. Thank you to all you guys out there who are watching, listening. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button. Add some comments in. It does go a long way of helping grow the page, helping this video reach as many people as possible. Make sure you give Retro Rugby League a follow as well, all across his social media platforms as well. Retro, thank you for coming on. It's a lot out of your time, so we're really appreciative of that. You didn't need to, but you jumped on board. Thank you to Link as well from the United, who jumped on board and got through a lot for part one. He didn't need to at all, and he came back after the unfortunate hiccup and was straight on the phone going, mate, I'll do whatever it needs to do to get it done for everyone out there and obviously us as well, so really appreciate that. Trav, thank you. You always go above and beyond, and I know this one was a massive one, and you've absolutely gone above and beyond once again, so thank you very much for being here and sticking out the whole process.
I appreciate it. It's not without a few disdain comments that I've had across the way, but it's all good. Hey, I'll end on one thing. I I'll figure out some sort of special prize, maybe a nice little stubby holder or something for the person who gets the closest cartoon drawing to our producer Rob based on our description.
Yeah,
Something's come out. Get it out there, guys. Get something out there.
We'll get something in. And massive shout out to Rob, jumped on board and helping us from behind the scenes. It's a huge job. He literally has to sit there throughout this whole entire podcast and basically just watch and then go home and do everything and make it the production that you guys have been able to watch. So another reason why, please like, subscribe, support it all, because it's all back to Rob and his incredible work that he has done.
Thanks,
so thank you to everyone once again. Please like, subscribe, all that sort of jazz. We'll be back in a few weeks for Pub Talk. Cannot wait for that one.
Is DJ Jazzy Jizzle coming to Pub Talk?
I think we have to get in there.
Bring him in.
We have to. We have to get in there.
Do you want me to bring the turntable?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, it will be a round table sort of mix, so why not? Thank you very much. Goodbye.